champs a few months ago. And of course, our teams have changed quite a bit as well. So many storylines, and I am so incredibly excited. Vicky, we're back, girl. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I can't believe it's been 4 months already. I'm back with my duo. I'm back with the talented Rain Day, and I'm so excited to bring you guys the action for the first day of the ALGS Pro League Year 3.
Well, we know there's a lot to get into, and I don't want to waste any more time before we get into gameplay very shortly, but let's break it down for those who are new or maybe those who are old, coming back in for the format of how this is going to work. Think about it like this. Playoffs on the line at the end of this split, but today starts the fight towards that. On the 18th, we're going to have a match point championship based on how these teams qualify starting into getting into that lobby over the next qualifier days that we will experience throughout November and December. The winner of that match point in December at the end of it will actually move on alongside the other 9 teams behind them to our playoffs. The 10 teams who qualify behind that, those bottom 10 of the 20 that make it into that match point qualifier, they'll stay in Pro League. The teams who didn't, they're going to have to fight for a chance to qualify back in our Pro League qualifier. It may seem like a lot, but at the end of the day, if you do well, good things happen to you, not just on the placement standpoint, but the prizing as well. $20,000 up for grabs for first, and it goes all the way down into 20th. Everybody gets some cash, but of course, they are vying for not just supremacy. They're vying for what it means to be a champion, which is the most elusive prize in Apex Legends. And it all ends up allowing us to see that it is going to be competition day in and day out, especially starting today. I know all of the teams are pumped. And speaking of the teams that will be participating, I want to hear a word from you, John, Vicky. What stands out now that we have a chance to look at all of the teams here?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Group A, if I had to pick a group of death, would be that group of death in EMEA. You got the Kansas City Pioneers playing with Max Strafey again, by the way. Really excited to see his return on this squad alongside Ascend, Guyman, and then, of course, Group B, Alliance, Invictus with Graceful as the third. The return of JMW and Graceful, former Team Nessie. So excited for that roster. So many heavy-hitting teams. And then you also have some rookies. Bitfix Gaming, High Peak, 3 Muppets. You have Corpa, VZD, Game Ward as kind of dark horse teams. There are so many storylines here, Vicky. I'm so excited for this. It's going to be an amazing kickoff.
I'm so excited that you highlighted those 6 teams coming in from the preseason qualifiers. Rather, the 6 teams that we're going to be able to witness in our Group A versus B lobby today. But of course, I'm also expecting the usual good teams to perform out here. Alliance, E6, Invictus. Of course, you mentioned the Pioneers, Vex, and Guyman are going to be able to make their debuts today under those new orgs. It's going to be a really good time to see how these 3 groups are going to be able to perform in EMEA.
Well, thanks, guys, for the macro picture. Let's squeeze it into the micro. We've got groups A and B going at it today. Specifically, and I'll start again with you, John, what do you have your eye on in this specific matchup to kick off our Pro League?
Yeah, a couple of really key storylines. I mentioned one already. Pioneers playing with Max Strafey again. Excited to see what they can do. Shex is actually a substitute for this team, but we did receive word they will be playing with Dell and their full roster. So ignore what you see on screen there. But we also have them going up against Alliance, Element 6. Alliance playing with Mandy, Vice stepping aside for some time. Obviously, we always talked about Vice and how much impact he has as kind of the unsung hero of this team. We'll see how true that really is. His absence might be felt here, but Mandy obviously has big shoes to fill and certainly is the one that can fill them. Vicky, any key storylines or anything you're looking out for?
I mean, I want to highlight those 6 teams that are going to be coming in from the preseason qualifiers, looking to find success in Split 1. Bitfix Gaming, who likes to fixate on that Rampart, 3 Muppets, High Peak, Game of Drones, Corpa, LFO, Forever. These teams are going to be competing against the best of the best out here, so I'm excited to see how these qualifier teams are going to be able to do against a lobby this stacked, especially looking at Group B. I mean, look at this. It's insane.
Yeah, there's so many teams here that we could talk about. I've got my eye on Graceful joining IT International after Bryn's retirement. There's so many different dynamics here, but of course, we have to choose a few that we showcase and focus on to start this off. So I'll begin with you, John. Who is your team to watch today?
Yeah, my team, how can you pick anyone but the Kansas City Pioneers? What a story. Obviously, they're coming in with a new org. Welcome, KCP, to Apex Legends. Their debut in the ALGS is today, and they've been looking good. They had a chance to fly on over to Arkansas, won the Rewired LAN Festival in Arkansas with Verhulst as a substitute, and of course, with GMT, the squad that became the fan favorite at ALGS Champs because of this clip, substitute in Rambo. The energy, the hype, the playmaking, the listen-ins, Kansas City Pioneers brings it all to competitive Apex. I'm excited to see this roster today.
Oh man, especially with those pop-offs. You know, another team I want to see is got to be Alliance, a team that we got to see pop off and land themselves. It's going to be Hockey's Yuki and Monday. No Wives here, as he is taking a step back from competitive. Monday coming in from Scars. He's going to be taking over for Wives, and he will be standing in for Alliance for the first 2 weeks while they look for a permanent stand-in. Monday out here, he himself has won the ALGS Championship back in 2021, and within EMEA, and he won first place in the ALGS 2022 Last Chance Qualifier. So with Scars, he's been able to find a lot of this success. But can he replicate that here with Alliance, who has been able to play with some different stand-ins players for some recent tournaments, like Graceful and Effect, of course. So with Alliance getting 8th during the ALGS Championship for year 2, I'm excited to see what they got in for year 3.
I mean, Kansas City Pioneers joining the league. We've seen them have so much success, fan favorites for sure. We also talk about Alliance. I mean, how can you not? I'm going to allow them some space on the broadcast, but let me take it away for this one. Gaming Gladiators. This is a team that has had so much success, yet been so unsuccessful in the moments they wanted to be, which is, of course, at LAN. Not claiming a top 20 spot, unfortunately, in our playoffs. Hardeki went back to the drawing board alongside Artico and Leogri and are determined to do better. And when I say do better, it's kind of hard to fathom that they could do better because they put together some of the greatest moments the ALGS and EMEA has ever seen with their clutch plays, specifically the star of the show here, Hardeki. But I'm excited to see beyond their team fighting and beyond their capability to be successful online, can they transition into the big time with it? And guess what? They had a statement when they launched today. They said the kiddies are back and stronger than ever. Stay tuned. Hashtag ALGS today, 6 p.m. Hashtag we fight. Hashtag against all odds. I think they know, John and Vicky, that the pressure is on them and they are ready to take it on their shoulders and move forward and become better. But if you are interested in seeing how this is going to play out, let's run through a little bit of it before we get started. Games are almost underway. Stormpoint will kick us off, our newest introduction to competitive Apex Legends as a map, and then we'll switch on to World's Edge. We'll finish the day off there. And if that wasn't enough of a difference of viewpoints or a difference of opportunities to see a new image of Apex Legends, then I guess we'll have to add one more thing. That's multi-view, baby. It's coming back. It's here for Apex Legends Season 3. We had it in year 2. It's been one of the most transformative things to engage and allow you to experience Apex your way. You can take a look at all of your players' POVs, hear their in-game comms, see their rotations, every clutch fight, every close moment, every final circle is in your hands. Just a reminder, the logos, they are not showing today, so keep in mind as you're transgressing the command center that will obviously be something that isn't available in this first moment. But hey, it's still going to be a great opportunity for you to see your favorite teams in action. My name is Rain Day. Wow, are y'all ready? It is here. It is Apex Legends Season 3 kicking off. I cannot wait. This is going to be an incredible year, and I can't ask for a better duo to take us to our first game of the year. Go ahead, John, Vicky, Kitty, take it away.
Thank you so much, my boy Rain Day, crushing it as always, and welcome everybody to the caster's desk for the very first time in Year 3 Pro League. I'm Fallout, joined alongside Vicky Kitty as we get ready to kick off the EMEA Pro League. VK, how you feeling, girl? How excited are you?
I'm so excited. Kevin, you know me, Fallout. You know how I feel about Apex Legends. You know how I feel about what we're going to see for Year 3. I mean, after the action we saw in APAC, I mean, Meta, what is that? I mean, they're throwing out everything that they feel like is going to work out for them. We saw the Bangalore, we saw the Mad Maggie, we saw Crypto, we saw the Ash, of course, we saw the mainstay Seer. How is this going to play into the compositions that we're going to witness in the EMEA region? I'm so curious.
Yeah, you and I both. EMEA is always known to kind of shake up meta quite a bit, whereas NA kind of copy-paste in a lot of ways. You know, obviously Watson started off playing Seer. Now everyone's running Seer in North America. In EMEA, you still see some Crypto in play. You still see some Bangalore in play. Shout out to, of course, all of the Bangalore mains out there. But I'm excited to see if we will see some unique team compositions. We know Team Empire, Ranches, and Co. like to run Mad Maggie and like to play a little bit more aggressive. You still see some Bloodhound. So expect some diversity in team comps all up over in EMEA. One thing that's important to understand for all the Apex fans watching, we are actually playing on the last patch. Reason being, you don't want to throw a brand new patch, a brand new legend, obviously a brand new map at pro players a couple days before they kick off one of the biggest pro leagues, actually the biggest pro league and the biggest pro competition that they play in. So no Catalyst, obviously no Broken Moon. We'll still be playing on World's Edge and Stormpoint without Catalyst in play today, or at least for a few weeks as the pros have time to transition. Vicky.
Yeah, great point right there too, Fala, because of course this is the patch that I always consider as that Valk nurse patch. Of course, now that we're going to be able to see some of those changes moving on to our first day of year 3, Valk's still very much in the meta. It still has the highest play rate that we've seen so far within a lot of these lobbies, and of course with some changes just so that way you guys could remember if you guys have been grinding out the new season. That still means in the crate, of course, we have the Stay and True Kraber, the Rampage, the Massive, as well as the Bochak.
Great call outs, and thank you, Vicky, for that. But ladies and gentlemen, get hyped and blow it up in the chat. Game 1 is loading. We're kicking things off on Storm Point to kick off broadcast coverage for the Apex Legends Global Series Pro League. Congratulations, of course, to Apex South and North for already completing their Pro League Day 1, but EMEA starts now. North America will follow later today. It is a full day of Apex Legends action, Apex Sunday, if you will. Get your popcorn. Those who are with it for the long haul, let us know in chat. We'll be hanging with you for the entirety of the day, and excited to kick off day number 1. Vicky, as we jump into game 1 here, any bold predictions, any thoughts on who's going to come out swinging here in game 1 with a dub?
Ooh, you know you always got to put me on the hot seat, huh, Fallout? Okay, all right. Got to give it to the boys, the KCP squad, because they're the ones that have been playing with a sub as well as Alliance has, but specifically KCP after the action that I saw when they brought in Verholz, how we got to see the Stay and True Nasky Serdell play around, you know, not having Max Strafey there. Shout out to Max Strafey, who's currently situated in Ukraine. It's nice to see how they're going to be able to go into the year 3 and day number 1 with that next player that they're not used to playing with.
Ooh, I like that call. KCP to start strong, and it's actually crazy. I was talking to Nasky right before, and based on some of the recent bombings in Kiev, wasn't sure if there was going to be power outages, if Strafey was going to be able to play. Confirmed that he is going to be playing, I believe, with this roster. We'll take a look as we see their team names here on screen in a moment, but they are playing with their full team. I got the Gaiman Gladiators. They're playing with Artigo today. Hardeki confirmed that in DM to me earlier today as well. I'm excited to see Gaiman, former FA Kitties, in their return to glory. I mean, for the longest time, Vicky, it was Gaiman and it was Alliance, the top 2 heavy hitters in EU, and then this little trio, Nasky, Strafey, Dell, came along and took that title and shake things up quite a bit. But we're kicking things off with Alliance, playing with Mandy, fan favorite, one of the top streamers in Apex Legends, on his Gibraltar, which he's one of the best Gibbies, if not the best Gibby in the world. Excited to see what Alliance can do.
Yeah, Mandy also just an amazing personality. He's got a lot of fans over there in Japan, and I'm excited to see what he's going to bring with the rest of the Alliance squad as they're going to be able to situate themselves at their POI over on the northern side of Storm Point. Nice to know, again, looking at the composition, Seer still obviously in the meta like we've seen not only throughout APAC, but within the last few scrims when it comes to some of these teams. Alliance, also talking about scrims, have consistently been top 5 in the last previous weeks leading up into the Pro League.
That's right. Alliance has been looking sharp. For those that are maybe newer to competitive Apex, Alliance Hockeys, the IGL of this team, has been on this team since the very beginning, from Sweden, former Sweden military, and always kind of speaks about how his time in the Swedish military helped prepare him to be a leader in an IGL in Apex Legends. He approaches his regimen, his daily practice schedule, his leadership in a similar way. He was a longtime duo with Vice, the unsung hero of this team, the support player who took a step back. Mandy fills those big shoes. We'll see if the chemistry will still be there, though, because obviously that is 3+ years of teaming between Hockeys and Vice. Yuki joined the squad about 8 to 10 months ago and has had an incredible impact from the UK. We'll see how Yuki will fare as Valkyrie, one of the consistent Valks in EU.
Not only that, of course, Yuki being a model himself, I mean, he's been able to not only pop off in game, but pop off in real life as we get to take a look at some of our other squads situated in Cenote Caves. Now with now kind of wondering where this circle is going to be pulling for our first game of the day. It's nice to see how some of these squads have the advantage coming in from the northern side of the map, because of course on Storm Point you have that disparity between high to low ground. The Valkyrie ult with the Skyward Dive is going to be able to cross much more space coming in from the north side of the map, and it does look like it is going to be pulling in that direction, as Game of Drones is the squad that's going to be landing in Cenote Caves and looking fantastic already when we talk about the loot. I mean, look at this, the PK, you got the purple shotgun choke, you got the Digi threat as well. I believe the replicator does change in just a few minutes, which is also nice to note because it is Sunday, which means our weekly rotations would be changing too.
Evo Shield here. Level 3.
Game of Drones, a name that you probably remember from Apex, but a new roster. Rondon, the only remaining member of this squad, coming from Slovakia, playing with relative rookies in Jules and Torj. Torj from Norway, Jules from Germany, so a multinational team. Game of Drones is one of the teams that qualified through the open qualifiers, but certainly no strangers to Pro League. They've been here before. They've competed at a top level before. before, so I'm excited to see what they can do and if they can shake things up in this lobby. And the fact that they get all of Cenote K's, which is probably the most slept on POI on Stormpoint, in my opinion, is great. Look at the loot. Already purple shields and blue shields for Jules and Rondon, respectively.
Yeah, although it's not going to be pulling in this direction, I also just absolutely love those end circles. They're so chaotic when it comes to Cenote Caves, because a lot of teams like to situate themselves inside these buildings early. LFO, forever. Another one of our squads that have made it through the qualifiers are already going to make their quick rotation. A nice call out, actually, in predicting that the circle is going to be pulling towards Northpad, which also has that beacon, so information for days for this team. Because, of course, with Horizon sticking to the Valkyrie like we've seen Horizon before, it's going to be nice to see how Horizon's going to be able to play this, since we probably already have a squad that uses a Northpad as their own POI.
Yeah, great positioning with the Watson in play, and they'll be able to burrow themselves in this bunker, and they are basically going to pitch up a tent, as you see right here, Newcastle on display. So we got that big comp of Newcastle and Watson. We've seen a lot of teams do this, 100 Thieves kind of notably in North America, and it's a really, really good passive early rotate comp, but looks like we're going to have our first fight of the Pro League. It's going to be the Kansas City Pioneers live against High Peak, and off to a good start is Nasty with the car.
That's exactly what the Kansas City Pioneers want to start off with, and not only that, look at their Evo shields. They're looking fantastic. They already have the health advantage over High Peak, losing out on Bavis here. Fortunately, dropping down, though, you can't run anywhere. High Peak get aped, and KCP already put themselves on the board. Not only that, they are also the ones to take out the first squad in our first game lobby.
KCP, an absolute steam train rolling through Kansas City and demolishing their first opponents here in ALGS Pro League. What a start for the Kansas City Pioneers, to see their teamwork right there on display. And for those, again, that are newer to Apex, haven't been watching for a long time, one of the best stories we've had in competitive Apex. Nasky went to the Apex Legends preseason invitational in Poland years ago as a complete unknown rookie. With this trio, came out of nowhere, grinded from the amateur scene to semi-pro to becoming professional players to becoming champions. They won the summer circuit way back in 2019, and since then Strafey left to join Navi, got a great org, a nice salary, and did not find as much success with that team. Returns back to his boys, his team of two, and Nasky, Strafey, and Dell are now back under the banner of the Kansas City Pioneers and looking to return to their spot on top of the throne of EU Apex.
Side note, I love the fact that we're seeing Strafey out here too. I love seeing the KCP squad boys pop off. Horizon now going to be able to bunker down right below to this Northpad spot. Look how quick already, with only one squad out of this lobby like we just saw in that early fight with a KCP. Look how quick so many of these teams already situated in this final circle positioning. The predictions already coming in from these teams with so many beacon characters between the Valk, the Seer, and the different compositions with what I like to call the Taser comp between the Newcastle and the Watson is so interesting to see. Those rocks are already going to get contested. I'm not surprised that the sniper tower in Northpad has already been contested. That's going to be a really good game-winning spot for some of these teams if they could get there already.
Yeah, and you're going to see a lot more Watson on Stormpoint than you will on World's Edge. Reason being, well, you kind of see it on screen here. It's a lot harder to destroy those corner of the fences because of the way that the buildings are architected and the map layout is. Whereas on World's Edge, some open buildings, and it's a little bit easier to destroy Watson fences. So you see a lot more Watson on Stormpoint for that reason and other reasons, as we'll see 2 or 3 Watsons already. But Invictus Gaming, the return of Graceful alongside his duo in JMW, former Team Nessie, a dominant team for historically in competitive Apex. Excited to see what they can do. Horizon picks up Urban on track to be Rookie of the Year in 2020. Got picked up by Invictus, actually, so he's actually right next to his former team. Didn't perform up to expectations. He joins the Finnish duo, longtime duo, one of the longest duos we've had in Apex, in 0-0, and Mimu, former silver medalist at the X Games for Apex Legends alongside Snipe Down way back when. So excited to see what Horizon can do. Since then, they've been kind of a B, C tier team. They haven't been able to perform at the highest level in EU. We'll see if that will change here with Urban.
I love how you like to highlight the history here for a lot of these squads, because it's so important to tell their story here as they start off day number 1 in the Pro League as Alliance, a little bit far away from Northpad, taking a different route and taking their time over in the Replicator. Alliance, one of the squads that we highlighted for all the right reasons. I mean, this is one of the most consistent squads in the EMEA region, even while they're subbing in different players between Graceful and Effect, and now Monday moving in to situate themselves within Alliance for the next 2 weeks. It's nice to see how their approach is for this next circle, because this is one of the teams that do take their time. They're going to be able to loot up nicely with the Replicator, get all those shield bats, get all those med kits that you need, and look at those Evo shields already too. They already got them all the way up to purple with the Replicator alone, so they're looking to take a much more slower approach into this next circle.
Yeah, Alliance dropping Lightning Rod, the northeasternest most side of the map. I just made up that word, I think. Taking their time, obviously, on rotates. They're going to be playing edge. They're going to be playing a very, very passive edge, looking to pick any fights that they can, but also going to be really, really well looted with that crafter. So good rotation coming through from Alliance. We'll have to keep following their journey as there won't be a lot of real estate left. You see so many teams have already posted up with Watson in play, and it's going to be hard to find God's spot in this late game since teams have already secured it.
And that's what happens when you have these teams going in for early rotates, especially with the Valkyrie Skyward Dive. It's going to be a little bit difficult for teams like Alliance to force their way in when all these spots have already been taken up. But one thing to know is with these squads taking their time and actually just bunkering down for this final circle, they're denying themselves loot. It's not like we've seen a Loba yet in this lobby, and it doesn't look like we have one. So it's looking like a lot of these teams are denying themselves loot while they are playing this patient game of just bunkering down for the final circle.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing here from the Three Muppets. One of our rookie teams in competitive Apex, Strongest, Plom, and Kumbra, all coming from Norway, by the way, a full Norwegian team. They are doing a good job of obviously having home base, but then stretching out on a leash to see if they can pick up some KP or kill points along the way. I like what I'm seeing from them. Vexed find themselves in a fight. Might be against Alliance here. We know Alliance was just at the wall, just north of them. An early fight between Vexed and potentially Alliance, or Alliance will join this third party. This is a close one.
Oh, already a crack right there, too, on the horizon from across the field. We've seen Vexter Gaming already fall out. We saw them pop off originally as formerly known as Bosch, as another crack comes in from Vex Gaming. I like this positioning that they're holding, too. They're trying to get out of that line of sight of the Seer, as well as holding the other side of the cliff, so that way they could actually just go behind the rocks in case that they're in the line of fire.
And actually, it's going to be Korpa that will be nearby. Zerifer, the Slovakian, alongside Trix coming from Hungary. They find themselves in a tough 3v3 against a hungry Vex roster that's so incredibly talented. And Alliance might enter the fray. Max Strafe is going to go down to Herald at the top right of your screen. Keep an eye on that as this fight will continue. Tyler, FPS, controller player from the UK, alongside Unlucky and Matafe, a top team here in EU, recently signed by Vex, have Korpa on the ropes right now. Will they decide to full send, or will they play rotate? It looks like Tyler calls them off.
Also nice to note that's EKO Esports, by the way, that's putting in some pressure onto KCP in the feed. Remember, we do got that multi-view if you guys want to listen to some comms, so that way you guys can take notes for your own games. As Vex Gaming are going to continue on this fight outside of the circle. Ring 2 closing in, taking a little bit of that chunk of damage, of course, as Vex Gaming looking to fully set it onto this last straggler over by the side as they're trying to run into that next circle.
Yeah, we've seen Vex perform really, really well in the Boom TV $70,000 tournament. The finals, by the way, are this Wednesday. Their performance there certainly got them ready for ALGS Pro League. Here's a big fight, though, between Jules. He's going to get knocked early. It's going to be Game of Drones. Rondon needs to go huge. He's last alive, and no, he won't. He gets taken out by the hands of the rookies, the Three Muppets, which, by the way, is my favorite team name so far. I'm just going to say I'm a Three Muppet fan. They are the new Team Burger. I'm just saying.
I love the Three Muppets, but I have to say, Game of Drones is also pretty good, all right? It may not be the House of Drones out here right now, as they're the second squad to get taken down from this lobby, but Three Muppets are now going to take this real estate, some free real estate, which is pretty nice to see here for Three Muppets, because looking at this composition, like you mentioned before, we are going to be seeing a lot of the Watsons on Storm Point, so now they could just bunker down with the Watsons, set up those fences, and nicely to see that they're going to be able to gatekeep any squads that are going to be rotating away from Down Beast as well as Checkpoint.
Yeah, and that's why, especially with these eastern zones, it's so important to early rotate and get yourself real estate. Because look at this, there's so much no man's land, as you see on screen right now. If you can rotate early, get some of the god spots, get some of the great positioning like we saw the Three Muppets do, you can absolutely bully people like Forge right now, who actually are going to use a very, very south-wide rotation, or sorry, north-wide rotation, using the rocks as cover for line of sight, and will find themselves a decent rotate, but have to continue their journey, their trajectory. This looks as barren as the Game of Thrones here on screen right now. Filmed in Croatia. It's going to be quite the trajectory that they'll have to walk through to make it to safety. It's going to be a tough rotate here for Forge. Jay Savage, by the way, for the first time in his career, not playing with the Reply Totem Italian boys. He is now playing alongside the Frenchman in Forge. A lot of French players, by the way, showing up in this competition, the second most of any nationality behind the UK. So France has really stepped up in competitive Apex.
France in general is so ahead of the curve when it comes to esports too. Not only Forge, we gotta highlight heroes and Gaming Gladiators actually now looking to get the res and successfully pulling it off with the Newcastle. Talking about the compositions, this is why it's so powerful. You got that gold knockdown here too, so that way you can give yourself some cover at the same time. See Artico trying to give some suppressed fire too on this side.
Yeah, and Gaiman Gladiators running Newcastle and Watson, a very defensive bunker down team composition. When they're known to fly at people, they kind of popularized the Bloodhound comp when Bloodhound meta was so popular way back when, instead opting for the defensive team comp. Early rotates, and Gaiman using that Newcastle ult to head glitch. Great shots being put through, but this is not the free-flowing Gaiman Gladiators we're used to watching, absolutely flying around the map and picking up KP along the way. Leogri's gonna go down. It's gonna be so much damage. It's gonna be Plum again. The three Muppets are here to say, hey, there is a new era of top players in competitive Apex, and it's us. It's the three Muppets.
The three Muppets are scaring me right now with the way that they're playing. This is actually insane, but can they approach with these fence lines as Leogri goes down again? Artico getting pinged by the Thermite. You have to watch out. The Archers now coming in. Phoenix Legacy wants to get invited to this party as Gaiman Gladiators are the 18th squad to go down. Phoenix Legacy maybe joining them in the lobby.
It is absolute madness right now. Gaiman was the meat of the sandwich between Phoenix Legacy and three Muppets and ended up getting eaten up instead. It looks like Phoenix will also go knocked. And look at this, three Muppets are going to escape pretty much damage-free. What a showing right now from the three Muppets, the rookies in their debut here in ALGS Pro League, looking fantastic.
Let's not forget, this is one of the teams that made their way through the qualifiers, making sure that they deserve to be here against the best of the best in the Pro League. Now with this repositioning too on the southern side of the circle, they can gatekeep and rack up so much KP for any of the other squads that are rotating on the outskirts. Vex Gaming now coming out of a win themselves as Horizon gets eliminated. They're looking for a quick rotate, but there's a fight happening right in front of them with the Cyril.
IG gets taken out to the hands of Alliance. Here comes Vex Gaming flying in and wanting static. Nice use of the Seer Q is going to get them all the intel and wall hacks that they need. Unlucky going to push up wide left. Has one so incredibly damaged and still has the intel from Seer. He's going to be flying at this. Tags with the Valkyrie Q. Missile Swarm comes through. Yuki, goodbye to you.
Why are you running? He's gonna be able to chase him down. You see the EVA 8 lackluster and a bit of some ammunition here from Unlucky. As you can see, so many fights are happening on each side of North Pad. 13 squads left as Vex are looking to try to close in the gap. Another player, though, getting taken out. That's Alliance now getting taken out of the lobby. That's gonna be Heroes, one of our other French squads that are gonna be able to put in the extra pressure onto Alliance.
That's right. Alliance eliminated at the hands of Vex and Heroes. Vex Gaming, wise decision earlier not to take that fight against Corpa in Storm. They rotated instead, and it's paying off for now. They got to finish their rotation, though. It's going to be tough to do. Oh my gosh, someone's right behind them with 1 HP. Can they find that last and final rat? Looks like they are going to try and pick up that one remaining player. Not sure which team it is. They should be able to clean that up. Should be able to get healed back to full. And they do have a Valkyrie ultimate to use if they so choose to do so. It'd be high risk, high reward. But look at this. Another team of two is going to fly through. Unlucky gets 140 damage to initiate and break ice. Is not missing a shot right now. Is Unlucky.
Vex is insane. Unlucky with the beamage with the R301. I mean, I'm not surprised here. The R301 being such a fantastic weapon. Wingman gonna be able to take care of Lackey, and that's LFO forever eliminated from this lobby. I saw another squad as well making their way through the checkpoint rather the choke point of checkpoint, trying to shoot at Vex Gaming. But this is their debut, of course, today in the Pro League. They were formerly known as Bosch, and they took first place in the last EMEA scrims prior to this day for the Pro League, and they're looking to actually come into that next circle of Fallout.
Yeah, they're going to be focused, though.
Oh,
the
no.
Lobby, pretty much. Unlucky's going to get knocked as their Valk, and that's going to be it. An unfortunate ending to their story here, most likely, is the three Muppets are going to be the ones that gatekeep them. They are taking out every top team in this lobby. It started with Gaiman, and then Vex Gaming was the second team right behind them, as Navi Rugby is lighting it up the kill feed as well. Vex Gaming, you thought they were going to have a big game. They get shut down to the hands of the three Muppets.
Oh, Vex Gaming didn't have the other two members to separate themselves from the Valkyrie, so they didn't get to the Apex in time to be able to split up from there. It's so unfortunate. GG try again as three Muppets are going to be able to come out from this amazingly. They're playing off the low ground. This is not the situation that they want to be in right now because they know that there's a squad that has a high ground right above them. You can see the crypto drone rotating around them to get some of that extra information, but they're going to have to get moving soon because they have less than a minute now left on the clock to get into that next circle.
Yeah, this is going to be probably the hardest challenge yet. They've had some pretty tough challenges to start. This is a really difficult rotate. Take a look at the top left of your screen. In my opinion, the best rotate, again, I don't know where all the teams are kind of located on the map, like they might be aware, but it's going to be to their left side. That's going to be dead side of the circle, which means the Storm will be closing in a lot slower than elsewhere. We'll see how they play that rotate and if they can do it with success, as we see Kralix and Draconian find themselves in a fight nearby against Foes J.
Let's see, it's Turkish
alongside
Stars,
Turkish Stars
that are on the high ground right now, Fallout. This is one of our other squads that we've been looking at. Our Turkish team looking to take the dub for game number 1. But remember what we mentioned about the sniper tower in North Path. The squad that has that high ground is going to have the advantage because they're going to be able to catch Turkish Stars when they're funneled out into the next circle.
And that's the Crypto. I was wondering, we saw the drone flying around. I was wondering which team was running Crypto. It's going to be the Turkish Stars with Foes Edge on Crypto. So keep an eye on that Crypto. We'll get all the intel of where every team is in this late game. This is where Crypto is so helpful, is just the intel and information, knowing how to play this rotate to perfection, because they know where every team on the map is going to be. We'll see how they rotate through, and right behind them is going to be the 3 Muppets trying to rotate as well. Here comes a Valkyrie ult. Speaking of rotates, we'll see if they will get focused. One team on ultimate high ground right now, and that team is E6 with a really good position. Echo at the top left of your screen, and KCP in the same position. We heard that listen in, that epic listen in at ALGS Championships. They're going to be positioned very, very well as well. Navi nearby, so Max Strafey will go up against his former team and Org in Navi in just a moment.
Turkish Stars forced to drop down from the high ground, though, as some of the fighting is going to commence over to the side. You mentioned Navi before. They're inside the Seer ult, but they also have that Newcastle ult for that deployable coverage. See, Navi now going to be able to take some shots over to the side here, too, as KCP is also to their back. They have to watch out with the circle closing into their back.
Yeah. It's a tough rotation. They're going to have to go through the absolute crisscross applesauce of Watson fences right below them if they decide to take that rotate. Looks like they'll play to the left, but they have to be careful. We know that Turkish Stars are nearby. More Watson fences are going to be dropped here, but Rugby's going to get team fired and focused by KCP. It's going to be Nasty who gets the ultimate knock. Kron right after getting damaged down to 1 HP. He's out. All up to Sanya, the last alive for Navi, and he is hanging on by an absolute thread. Gets taken out as well. The KCP team fire comes through, and they pick themselves up 2 or 3 KP.
This is such good positioning here, too, for the KCP. Now they're going to be able to hang out behind this crate. Oh, so unfortunate that you saw Navi not able to take the extra cover that they need, not only behind that deployable cover, but behind that death box that you saw them holding on to. It's E6, the squad that we were looking at, Element 6, that have held onto this high ground for so long. I mean, can we talk about the plethora of Lifeline care packages that are painting this walkway?
Yeah, quite a few. Lifeline, welcome to Apex Legends Global Series. We have not seen much or any Lifeline in the ALGS, but look at this additional cover and all the loot for E6. As the 3 Muppets will finally get eliminated, we knew that rotate was going to be tough for them. Their journey comes to an end, but it looks like E6 is going to drop. They're going to ape this team. They're going to pick themselves up some even more KP. That's going to be the Turkish Stars eliminated. Eco gets eliminated as well to KCP. We got Element 6 with Lifen, the new controller player replacing Nags on this roster, alongside the Kansas City Pioneers, 2 of our 4 teams remaining in this lobby.
This is beautiful here for E6, as they've been able to clean up so many other teams while they've been situated on the high ground. You can see BFG playing off the low ground, Digi and Jay Savage also sharing some of that real estate, as E6 are looking to send it over to KCP.
And it's going to be the Crypto drone that's going to break ice for them and damage some shields. Slayers needs to go big, and he's going to turn right, misses one, but immediately turns and shreds. Nice job from KCP using the knockdown shield. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not. The Pioneers are going to be eliminated, but right after E6 gets taken out, Slayers is knocked. All up to Swinny and Lifen, and Swinny's going to push wide right and downs one. Huge plays from K Swinny, the IGL of this team.
Oh, this is so huge. BFG also on the other side here as they do take out that 1 member. 3 squads left as E6 are looking to dominate the rest of this lobby. They need to get this res. They're going to be able to get it onto Slayers. Rocking the lifeline once again. Have to reiterate. Absolutely huge as another straggler from the back end tries to control K Swinny. He's on the high ground though, so he has a situational advantage and a positioning advantage as well.
It all comes down to this. 3 squads remain. The res came through courtesy of Lifeline with quick reses. And here comes the damage. Bitfix is going to be out. The last team alive is going to be Jay Savage's team. Forge, they're going to get taken out as well. Swinny and E6 are going to start off the Apex Legends Global Series Pro League with an absolute bang. E6 comes out on top in game number 1. What a start to the Pro League here as we welcome back Rain Day to break down the action.
I'm speechless. What did we just see? We saw Lifeline not only played, but win the first game of Year 3. Well, if that doesn't tell you that ALGS Year 3 is going to be hype, I don't know what else will. Vicky, take a break. I want to bring back Fallout here to talk a little bit more about this post game because, John, you were just there casting the action. I can't believe what we've just... Is this real? Was my feed messed up or did Lifeline just win?
We saw a Lifeline dub, Ev. A Lifeline dub to kick off Pro League. The only team running Lifeline probably today. I don't think we're going to see an NA run Lifeline given where meta's at over there. So crazy start. Lifeline picks up the win. And we saw a little bit of everything there, Evan. There's so much to break down, but that was an excellent game, number one. The best way I could have asked to kick off Pro League.
Absolutely. I mean, I felt that, there were so many interesting points you mentioned story-wise, and I think about the arc of these teams. And I think Nags, too, a player that we had a chance to interview over several lands and also had a big personality, replaced with Lifen. But that's like giving life back in to K Swinney and the rest of Element 6. And I just think that maybe this is a team that...
I'm just going to get off this broadcast and let you do your thing, man.
Listen, John.
Too good.
Listen, John. Come on. This is just too early for all this love, man. We got a whole year. Okay, wait. But at the end of the day, I think it was really, really exciting to see them. We saw some teams like Vexed pop off, get into good situations. I mean, going into that last game, and we're going to run some highlights soon. Tell me, what was your thought about the way these players were approaching that North Pad circle? What stood out to you?
Yeah. I mean, you called it. The arc of the story of that game had so many curveballs that were thrown at you, right? You thought Vexed Gaming was on an absolute tear. They weren't missing shots, and you thought they had a safe rotate with their Valk ult, and they get beamed down, and there goes the end of their story and their trajectory. Gaiman Gladiators running a completely new team composition, very different than the traditional playstyle we're used to them absolutely frying with. So interesting as well. We'll take a look at the highlights here, but in particular, the fact that we saw so many early rotates, so much Watson at play, quite a few Newcastle team comps as well, but ultimately Seer on display, I think says it all here as we kick things off. Those are probably the three biggest stories for me that were so interesting, Evan.
Oh, no doubt about it. I think here, looking at the arc of the game, it all started here. A lot of teams early rotating, and you saw that sometimes that worked out for Gaming Gladiators. Didn't quite work out for them holding one of the most, I think, entryway buildings of all of Checkpoint. Really where a lot of teams try to funnel in from that high ground, from Store Point, all the way into the open barren lands, as you called it. I love the Game of Thrones reference as well. Just finished the full season binge watch on my own. But yeah, I think this was really a story of a new composition taking the fold. We expected to see the Seer, the Horizon, and the Valkyrie. Did you expect to see this many Newcastle, Watson, and Valkyrie teams, or Newcastle, Watson, Seer teams that you saw, John?
Yeah, I thought maybe 2 or 3, but we saw, I think, 4 to 7 team comps that were running that Newcastle-Watson kind of big duo, or taser duo, as Vicky likes to call it. So quite a few teams. You saw a lot more Watson in combination with Seer and Valkyrie, like the Kansas City Pioneers here. But ultimately, the fact that we had this Lifeline as the final remaining team, no Valkyrie on this team, no Watson. They run Crypto Lifeline Horizon, completely off meta. You love to see it from E6, shaking things up, much like Furia did last year, by entering the Fuse and Seer era. A crazy first game, a really, really strong finish from them. But ultimately, it was their utility. I mean, the fact that they were able to get Godspot on high ground, drop those Lifeline care packages to basically get entirely purple or gold shields, meant they had all the utility and resources in the world going into that late game, and that paid dividends. It worked out really well for them.
It's the same way when you think about it, and if you're watching Apex Legends, this Seer meta, this Horizon meta, it wasn't based on a Seer or Horizon buff. It actually happened when Furia decided to just play these Legends and show how aggressive and successful they can be without the Gibraltar paired with the Valkyrie. And so these Legends didn't need any changes to have this level of efficacy. Now we see Lifeline having efficacy, no changes to her. Have people been sleeping on Lifeline? Probably not. I would say the majority of these teams, no, not the best fit, but still, I think if this continues to work for Element 6, John, people are going to open their eyes to the potential of what this pick could be.
I agree. And here's one thing in particular that is a big reason as to why we're seeing a bit more Lifeline. We saw Snipe Down and FaZe Clan actually start running it a little bit. Is if you have all on your Lifeline, if you give them 2 or 3 purple items, you are guaranteed a purple shield or a purple item in that care package. So just based on the logic behind how the care packages and supply drops work, you can basically guarantee yourself purple shields or purple or gold items in the care package if you just give that Lifeline all 2 or 3 of your purple items in the first place. So that's why you're seeing some teams run Lifeline. They kind of figured out that algorithm or that logic, if you will, and it's making Lifeline a lot more efficient and a lot more useful in these competitive lobbies every day.
Yeah, and I'm seeing too another pick that I want to highlight. Even though we saw kind of the heaven or hell, the offensive defense of the Newcastle Watson approach, we got the Seer Horizon approach. Add Valkyrie to both of those, see which one wins. But an immovable object versus an unstoppable force. At the end of the day, though, I think when we see Crypto and Lifeline, we talk about a different style of play. We are seeing a few Cryptos. K-Swinny and Element 6 have been using Cryptos before. I think they actually had a Crypto in this lineup, but I got to double check and make sure. It's a great pick for team fighting, and it's way more aggressive than you think. But the early rotation possibilities, the Lifeline care package setup, and gear up, as well as the Crypto information and the defensive utility there with the scouting, I feel like this is something that people are going to have to pay attention to, specifically that character as well. But we want to look at how it worked out for them. We know they won. John, let's take a look at the match results specifically, because they won big this time around. A 25 bomb. Wow.
Oh my goodness. Insane game from E6. And you hit the nail on the head. You get the supplies and the resources from Lifeline, but she also has a kit that makes her good for fighting. You get a heal, basically a heal over time in the middle of that fight. You can instant res teammates and get back into the action. So there's so much utility for fighting, which is why it's a good balanced team comp for either, early rotates and posting up for resources, or playing for fights and playing aggressive with the kills that we saw Element 6 put up here. A huge game from them, Evan.
Yeah, it's going to be a great showcase. If this hasn't given you goosebumps, excitement at home watching, just checking out what Year 3 is promising us, this isn't even our current patch. Just a reminder, this is the patch beforehand. They're still going to be playing this until November 20th. And so this is going to give our pros a good amount of time to adjust, to find these metas. But I want to bring up a conversation that we had. A lot of the coaches after the championships in July, we saw 100 Thieves be the only team to play this Newcastle, Valkyrie, and Watson lineup. And they actually placed 5th, earning over $100,000. And one of the things that I love to see is that they said if they had 6 more weeks to train on that meta, they would have seen every team playing Watson, Valkyrie, and Newcastle. And I think that's a testament to where this character is, because remember, this patch is after Newcastle got a significant buff to his kit. So I'm super excited about what he's going to bring.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And to your point, it's not necessarily just patches and buffs or nerfs that change the competitive Apex meta. It's one team being bold, one team deciding to shake things up. Like you said, Furia with the Horizon and Sphere meta in North America. Is it going to be E6 with Lifeline and Co? Is it 100 Thieves that started using, a lot more Watson and Newcastle? We have quite a bit of diversity right now, a lot of crypto at play. We see VZD, not in today's stage, they're in Group C, but they've been running Rampart, G-Dolphin on Rampart. So you love to see the diversity of meta and team comps right now, and it really showed there in game number 1.
All right, well, it's time to bring Vicky back in. Hopefully you had a little break. You allowed John and I to, go back and forth. Vicky, a quick word on that last game from you before you head into game 2.
More like me, just in all of the KP that E6 was able to clean up. Pioneers as well, coming in with 8 kills. Vex Gaming with 9. I mean, a very high kill lobby for those top 5 squads that were also able to find themselves in that final circle. So I like the pacing that we have after that first game.
I got to throw back to you too, John, before we get ready, as we're just setting up the lobby. KCP, that was your team to look out for. They had a strong showing, I think, positionally and team fight-wise in game 1. What are your thoughts on seeing them perform? Yeah,
I love that question. I think it really just shows the trio, Nasky, Strafey, and Dell, back in full form, how dangerous they can be. The team firing, the team fighting on point, some of the best chemistry of any trio in competitive Apex, one of the longest lasting teams. I loved what I saw from KCP. The thing is, though, they just got to finish. We need to see a top 2 finish from them if they want to really dominate the standings.
Vicky, I want to also hit your team to watch, because Alliance, notably to me, didn't seem like they took much action in game 1. They are a team that warms up, though. They definitely are a team that after 3 games starts to get going. They feel their rhythm. What do you think Alliance have to do to step it up a little faster here in game 2?
I mean, we did see them with early rotates, and they were able to clean up some KP along the way. I believe it was 5 KP in total that they were able to clean up. They bunkered down very early with the compositions that you were noting, the double taser comp between the Newcastle and the Watson, with a lot of these other teams kind of bunkering down and even seeing the crypto in the lobby to try to counter that. They were sandwiched, unfortunately. Their positioning, maybe they rotated too early where they were going to get caught off by other squads rotating away from checkpoint. They were just, unfortunately, in a very tight spot that not even the Newcastle deployable cover was going to be able to help them out. So maybe Alliance, just kind of what you're saying, getting ramped up, getting too ahead of the curve, and wanting to get more KP along the way before they want to force themselves to get the placement points that they need, which is necessary to dominate the overall standings.
It's a great point, Vicky. And these teams, I hope they're listening. They're probably not, though. They're probably talking team comms as well. They don't appreciate us on the broadcast, giving them the keys to victory here. But I want to give a shout out to something you mentioned as well, John, throughout all of the day. And I think big shout out to everyone who works on our qualifying broadcast. Every caster, every producer, every observer, everyone who puts that energy in, all of the players as well. That is the lifeblood of Apex Legends Esports. We appreciate you. And there's been a lot of stories and now a lot of teams that have come and have a chance here to be successful in the main stage. And you talked about one a lot. Three Muppets. How was their performance? BSC strongest. You got Plum, you got Kumbra. They actually were, I think, one of the biggest storylines heading in because they took that fight against Gaiman Gladiators in that big building they were holding. They actually won. They were the ones to take out Vex. John, talk to me about Three Muppets and their debut.
Absolutely. That was one of the best stories of game one as well. I'm glad you threw it there because the reality is that's, you said, the lifeblood of Apex Legends, and the beauty of this ALGS format is anyone of you watching right now can qualify through. It's an open qualifier, which means an amateur team can dominate Challenger Circuit, can qualify for Pro League in Split 2. That journey is there, and Three Muppets is that team that's showing that success. I mean, they could, if they continue their performance from what we saw in game one, if they can make it to a later game, they got caught on a rotation. We knew it was going to be a difficult rotation for them, but they could be a top 5 team leaving this stacked Group A versus Group B lobby. So I'm excited for teams like Three Muppets, teams like Game of Drones, High Peak, Bitfix Gaming in their debut. A lot of Scandinavian teams, by the way, showing up really, really strong from the Challenger Circuit and from qualifiers. And Three Muppets really held that banner really, really well, waved it really, really well in game number 1.
All right, let's move along to our standings so you can see where it all has settled down after the dust. It's Element 6 up on top, taking a big 25-point lead. That is how you want it. And of course, Pioneers with a lot of kills helping it out. But Vicky, walk me through something that stands out here for you. Just here where we have the final standings for game 1.
I mean, something that's got to stand out, which is a topic that we've been touching up on. The Three Muppets sitting overall in third so far with 10 points, tied up with Vex Gaming, who also had their own pop-off moments. But with E6 not only taking 13 kills and getting first place, they've already started building up the gap after that first game. 25 points to their name. Pioneers right behind them with 13 points. But overall, looking at our teams from first all the way down to 10th with Heroes, our French squad, getting 4th points, they're really tied up in terms of overall points. It's very close with a lot of these squads without a huge gap building necessarily between first place and second place.
John, I'll leave it to you as well. What kind of is standing out to you? Maybe I'm looking at IG International, a team I thought might have come out swinging a little bit harder out the gates.
You took the words out of my mouth. IG International and Gaiman Gladiators, 2 teams I had, and we obviously circled and highlighted quite a bit in the pre-show. Not in the top 10, not the best game number 1 for them. I know Gaiman got sandwiched by 2 teams, and despite playing that Watson and Newcastle team comp and bunkering up, did not work out really, really well for them. So I'm interested to see if they stick to their guns. Obviously only 1 game down. Something tells me they will, but it's just weird to me, Evan. I mean, Gaiman's so known to be one of the best open field fighting teams. Obviously, we all remember Hardeki on Wraith, and not saying Hardeki should play Wraith anymore. Wraith is far out of Apex meta, unfortunately. But I'd like to see them get a little bit more loose with their team comp and play their playstyle. I think so. I think so.
I think you're right, but we're seeing Lifeline today, John. I mean, Vicky, I can't put anything off the table here.
True.
We're gonna see Revenant today. Will we see Octane? All right, give me your spicy pick. I don't know. You guys can talk about it throughout the cast because guess what? We appreciate you and your patience watching at home. I know game 1 was a blistering start. We just wanted to get back into the action. Well, they found a game. They're ready to go. The action is here. So I'm gonna send it over to your casters who are already doing a great job. Vicky and John, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rain Day. Game number 2 is here on Storm Point. Keep in mind, just a reminder for those at home, 3 games on Storm Point followed by 3 games on World's Edge, and they're playing on the previous patch. So no Catalyst, obviously no Broken Moon. The R99 has not received that buff yet. The Volt hasn't gotten nerfed, so you're not going to see a whole lot of R99 in use today. You'll see a lot of Volt action. G7 Scout with double tap trigger is not a gold item, so you'll see a lot of that going on. So keep in mind, previous patch, but game number 2 is here. Rain Day asked for it. We got to follow through. Vicky, any spicy picks going into game 2? You know, I always got to put you on the spot.
I'm expecting our qualifying teams to actually make huge waves after the performance that we just saw right now with Three Muppets. Of course, I'm excited to see what more they have to bring for us because it was a North Pad circle. We had one of those northern circles where a lot of these teams don't have so much of a trouble when it comes to these rotations unless you're one of the squads that are rotating from like Shipfall, Gale Station, Antenna, then you have a bit of a way to go. So I'm expecting, you know, our qualifying teams like the Three Muppets to continuously pop off.
Yeah, that's a good point. That lightning round rotate was really, really tough and proved to be tough for Alliance, for example. So I like that call. And to be honest, I'm not one to typically copy people, but I've been hyping up Three Muppets. I got to stay on the Three Muppets train. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep an eye out for Three Muppets here as we take a look at the overhead map. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to see where all these teams are dropping so everyone knows where the drop spots are for these squads. We'll keep a close eye on this. And then also, look at the left and right of your screen and look at the color associated with your favorite teams. You can keep a close eye on them by using multi-view and watching their specific gameplay. You can hear their comms. Make sure to check out multi-view as well if you want to follow your specific teams. In addition to the broadcast, you can have multiple windows up with multiple teams. E6 drops North Pad. It was a North Pad finish, so it was a really solid and easy, relatively speaking, game for them, just posting up in their drop spot. We'll see where the Storm's going to pull in game 2. Cenote Cave will be the game of drones, and Alliance returning back to Lightning Rod, KCP at the wall, which they like to drop in as well as we jump on with E6.
Yeah, that was super important to note too, because with E6 landing in North Pad, that really does highlight why they are able to get away with not just playing the lifeline, but with the positioning that they were holding since the very beginning of the game. They were able to have some makeshift cover with those lifeline care packages, as we're just going to get settled in real quick. You see lifeline on the Trident before rejoining the rest of the squad here, and IG International looking like they're already cleaning up some spiders. I mean, I got arachnophobia. I know Halloween just passed here, John, but IG International being one of those squads that deny themselves some loot for some of those quick rotations as well. So JMW is going to be on the high ground real quick with the rest of the squad, with Graceful taking a split when it comes to the drop, and he's already got gold Evo.
Yeah, that's right. This is like, we kind of call it, this is going to be a drop spot right near Cascade Falls, where Team Liquid likes to drop in North America, and they are going to actually find themselves a wide drop. Because no teams are dropping here, it's going to be Graceful looting all of the waterfall while the rest of the IG boys take Cascade Falls. So that's going to be a lot of loot for them, plus they can craft and level up their Evo shields, so all of them will be leaving with that gold and blue shields. A really solid loot start for Invictus Gaming after a poor start in game number 1. We'll see if IG with Graceful can make some noise. And I want to quickly talk about Invictus Gaming as well. That's probably the most notable roster change in my eyes in terms of plus benefit for a team. Obviously, they don't have a lot of time or practice together yet with Graceful, but once they do, they're going to be dangerous. And reason being, Vicky, Noises was the sole IGL with Bryn and Co on that team for the longest time. I think the fact that Graceful's on that team now, he can be more of the micro IGL, while Noises is the macro IGL. We saw that with Cloud9 when Graceful substituted for Zach Mazer at the Split 2 playoffs on LAN in Sweden. Graceful was able to be that micro IGL, while Albert Lely was able to be more of a macro IGL. It worked out really well for them. Expect the same thing for IG. I think they're going to have a really big benefit from that.
Yeah, just to follow up from that too, because I'm really glad you mentioned Graceful and his performance as just a solo good stand-in player, because he's been able to display similar results when he had to sub in for Alliance recently for one of the more recent Apex Legends tournaments, as well as even G Dolphins team in the Proving Grounds tourney back in August. So overall, Graceful as a solo player is just such a solid player to pick up. I'm excited to see what he does with the rest of the IG boys, as we still take a look at Vex Gaming, as they are going to be able to exit out of their POI over in Launchpad. Looks like they don't have too much to traverse when it comes to the open ground here, as Bavis is also going to get shot at. It's actually a squad that's contesting HP from the high ground. So Bavis actually backing up a bit, as Bitfix Gaming are looking to actually put in some of the extra pressure. And I know I mentioned that they've used Rampart in the past during the quals, but Bitfix Gaming now using something that's a lot more consistent with the rest of the compositions and the teams that we've been able to witness between the Newcastle and the Watson.
That's right. Bitfix Gaming, another rookie squad alongside the Three Muppets making their showing in ALGS. Lil Max playing from Iraq, one of 2 Iraqian players, alongside VJ playing on VZD over in Group C. We're not going to see them on display today, but really exciting to see a lot of Middle Eastern players in the Pro League here, because EMEA, not just EU, we talk about EU most often because 97% of the players are from Europe, but EMEA stands for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Fun fact, for those that didn't know, when we say EMEA, what the heck do we mean? It's the Middle East and it's Africa. We've seen a couple South African teams have actually made it to some ALGS competitions. Not going to be in the Pro League, unfortunately, will be South Africa. But we will have Iraq. We will have Turkey from the Middle East on display. So shout out to our Middle Eastern teams competing and hanging with the best of them, as we see High Peak, Fricks, Bavis, and Young Hong Kong, 2 Danish players here. Another rookie team in ALGS.
One of the squads that are also rocking the Watson. No Newcastle this time around, still using the Seer. They want to try to make sure that they could take prioritization over information from what the Seer passive could provide, as well as just knowing where a lot of these squads want to rotate from, as we could take a look at where the circle is going to be pulling a much more middle-ish circle, but I do expect the circle to continuously be pulling more towards the south, which a lot of these other teams are also predicting. As you can see, the real estate and barometer is looking very limited.
Yeah, I want to point one thing out. Look at KCP. Already has rotated all the way from the wall to center circle. That is one of the fastest rotates.
Wow.
That is the KCP of old that we're used to watching, dropping fragment east and being the fastest to rotate, which is what the recipe for success was when they were a championship winning team back in 2020. Excited to see this KCP team return to what's worked well for them in the past. And look at this, every team already kind of clumping towards the south side of this center circle. Vicky, you called it. You said the zone's going to continue to pull south. I agree, and teams do as well. I mean, you see 12 to 15 teams already in the south side of the circle.
Yeah, although you see a lot of these teams already taking up barometer as just a situated spot that they want to hang out in, it's because they can rotate away from barometer north towards that middle area. As we see a skyward dive from high peak, they're going to be taking the Valkyrie ult away from barometer, it looks like, maybe trying to traverse around the big rock so that way they can have a northern side approach from barometer instead of being funneled outside of those two choke points that lead from the left side of barometer as well as the right side towards Jurassic Park. So Pioneers, with a squad that you keep highlighting, because this is an insane team, of course, to look at. KCP is already making their way into this real estate. That's on the outskirts of barometer. They are a little late to the party where we just saw skyward dive right in front of them. So lucky for that squad, they don't have to run into KCP.
Yeah, how fortuitous that they rotated immediately as after the skyward dive came through. Really, really solid rotate for Pioneers and fairly well timed. Otherwise, they would have found themselves in a fight against HP here. But I like the rotate from HP. Very, very a heads up play from them. A lot of these teams are familiar with these zones. That's kind of what's going to be different about the Pro League this season versus last season. Stormpoint was brand new, and people didn't know the zones yet. They didn't have them memorized to the back, on the back of their palm like they do on World's Edge. So you saw, things like Optic in North America always getting Godspot because other teams didn't know where Godspot was going to be necessarily. Well, that's changed now. Teams are really familiar with Stormpoint with these end zones and where they're going to go. They have the experience in scrim lobbies and tournaments. So that's why you see at high peak with the early rotate, you see KCP rotating early because every team is predicting this to be a southern pull here.
I'm really glad that you highlight that because it's not like we had that opportunity with Stormpoint at the very beginning of the year 2 of Pro League. So that's something to take note of as we start off year 3 with High Peak taking the real estate underneath this bridge on the outskirts of Barometer. This is actually one of the final circles that we've seen before when it comes to the circles pulling on the outskirts of Barometer because I'm not expecting it to continuously pull directly over Barometer. I am expecting it to go north. And High Peak having this train, they're using it as makeshift cover, but in case they need to boot themselves out of here because they're in some trouble, this is also a nice way for them to try to back up in case that they need to, if there are sandwiched. Because again, we do know that KCP is to their south, and there is that squad that's already taking control over that dome-shaped building.
My man's parking that thing like it's a Rari, in Milan or something. It's, some great parking and use of makeshift cover there for the Trident. Well parked, well positioned. That thing's not going to get scratched up. It's not going to get touched, as we'll see. I say that, but obviously they're going to get blown up here in a moment. We're going to watch Phoenix Legacy, the Cenote Cave rotate for them. We know that Game of Drones drops here, so I'm trying to look at the map here. I don't know if I see Game of Drones on screen with kind of the small text, but they must have rotated nearby as well. 20 squads still remaining, so every team is still in this lobby, and it is going to be a southwest pole, but fairly central southwest, as you see on screen. There's every single team except for Alliances inside that circle.
I don't know if that was a Kraber stray shot hitting the rocks right north of Sabs there, but I jumped a little bit because hearing that noise brings back PTSD sometimes. But with some of these teams taking their time, rotating into this next circle, such as Alliance, it really does highlight how teams like Alliance are truly taking their time into rotating into these next circles as Sab falls incredibly low, needing now to reset. Sabs is going to need Hoodie and Imp to actually give some suppressed fire.
Yeah, Sabs and Co. under some duress right now, but a team you absolutely have to highlight. Sabs of Phoenix Legacy, the only woman competing in the Pro League in this lobby today. So excited to see what Sabs and PL can do, and big shout to Sabs, one of the best competitors in our female community of Apex Legends in the world. Obviously, we have players like Girl, you have Estestu, you have FZ down in South America, and so many more competing. But the reality is, we need more representation. There was not one woman that competed in the ALGS Championships last year. I'm excited to see hopefully that change this season as more and more opportunities arise for people of all backgrounds.
It's beautiful. As we can see, Heroes, our Frenchman squad, in a lot of trouble. This is what happens when you go in for some of these early rotates, as the circle is going to be pulling away from this bridge. Heroes going to be able to fully send it in now underneath the bridge themselves, even playing as a two-man at the moment. Robin now looking to claim heads. Vex Gaming was the squad that was meeting them on the other side of this bridge here, as they're the first squad to get taken out of this lobby.
The French duo in ASCII and Robin, longtime teammates with Wrath now on this team, take out Vexed. What a elimination against a powerhouse team in Vex that looks so good in game number 1. The French are here to play. Nice job from ASCII and Robin. And now they're gonna have a tough rotate. They have a couple teams trying to gatekeep them nearby. On screen and on board now with the 3 Muppets. BSE Strongest, Plome, and Kumbra. We followed their journey and trajectory last game. The rising stars of Apex Legends, all 3 of them coming from Norway and looking so strong. I've only seen Kumbra play in a few majors. We saw him play in the PGL Showdown last year and a couple last chance qualifiers, but in terms of pro level play, we haven't seen a whole lot of the 3 Muppets. So a brand new team here to the ALGS Pro League, and I'm excited to see if they can continue their success from last game.
See, with 3 Muppets having this high ground, though, they're in a really good position. Alliance rotating from the outskirts of the circle, though. Remember, we talked about them taking their time to get into these next circles, but this is what kind of spelled their doom in game number 1. They do find some real estate with this open building, surprisingly, but there's so many teams wrapped around Barometer Sniper Tower, like 3 Muppets, kind of overlooking where they're situated in, that I'm worried for their funneled out rotation once this next circle closes.
Look over here.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. So they have Valkyrie to their name, so they can do that kind of YOLO, high risk, high reward Valkyrie ult. We'll see how they decide to rotate here. Plum almost is gonna have their beacon or pylon back ultimate. And nice shots, good damage from Plum on the team right below them. They're not gonna give up this high spot. They're not gonna give us this. They give up this positioning though. They will not drop on this team just yet. I think that's gonna be Alliance. We see a Gibraltar bubble. Not many teams running Gibby anymore, so most likely Alliance, who we knew was playing Edge.
Yeah, we talked about them taking up that real estate underneath that building, but they did manage to rotate away from the line of sight of 3 Muppets. They are seeing that there are other squads right below them too, now actually fighting Alliance, but the question is 3 Muppets, do they want to give up this high ground here? They should want to stay up here instead, because if they give up this high ground, they're giving up that real estate to the other squads that have the Seer all out, that have the information necessary to know where all these other teams are. But with the Seer all out, they're overlapping each other, Fallout, so everybody knows where these squads are sitting in inside Barometer.
Yeah, that's right. It was Alliance right below them. They're going to be sitting directly below the 3 Muppets. Again, the difficult rotation comes through, but Hockey's on Seer. I love the decision to put Hockey's on Seer because great comms, great leadership from him, and he's going to get all the intel from the Seer passive. Nice job and use of the Q right there. Is going to find 2 right behind them. They know there's a team above them as well, so they have to play this really smart because they can't ape this team nearby. They're going to get beamed from above from the 3 Muppets. It's going to be a really tough rotate for Alliance. Excited to see how they play it. As Horizon gets taken out at the top right of your screen from Corpa, the Dark Horse team I said we got to look out for here.
Yeah, Corpa coming out on top here, having those 2 purple, so 1 blue Evo shield, as they are going to be able to take out that squad, but fighting another squad over on the other side. Zerfer in a lot of trouble now, managing to get away from the line of sight, but unfortunately the Seer isn't going to be as lucky. Now they're going to be able to fully send it, but the shield back comes off. It's KCP, Sir down, getting 2 knocks. Nasky gets knocked himself, but the Pioneers come out on top, and they take care of Corpa as they fall 18th in this lobby.
Yeah, this is almost deja vu, Vicky. Exact same thing we saw from game 1. Kansas City Pioneers have proven that they are so good at playing together, taking those 3v3 pound-for-pound fights with success. They are arguably one of the best 3v3 pound-for-pound fighting teams in EMEA. Good luck beating this trio in a 3v3, almost like an arenas game. Good job from KCP, but again, their biggest challenge is going to be ahead of them. They still have to rotate. Looks like the 3 Muppets gave up their positioning in tower and actually went for center Barometer instead, so they're going to get some good positioning here. They do have Watson fences to their name as well. The Watson fences will go up, but they will be focused by pretty much every angle of the lobby here. Not a whole lot of cover to work with this spinning, rotating center Barometer.
Yeah, it's 3 Muppets who have always been on top, by the way, of getting this positioning that they need to be able to sit in a outskirts of the circle where they can rack up some extra KP. So another really good spot for 3 Muppets, as E6 are winners of game number 1, finding themselves in some trouble. Remember, they do land in North Pad, so they did have access to that choke point that leads into Barometer over by the west side. You can see K-Sweeney taking a lot of damage. He's got the gold Evo shield, though, so he can get back to health real quick.
Yeah, that's right. But look at this. 2 of them with red Evo shields. That means they've been fighting. They've done damage. E6, well, they have probably their hardest fight in front of them right now. Is it's going to be Max Strafey who's going to get a knock with the charge rifle long range. Here comes the push from Kansas City Pioneer. They don't want to slow down, but nice shot by Case Swinny. Is going to put someone at bay. Sears down to no HP. Case Swinny needs to go back. He's going to get knocked. The revive came through. Leifin and Slayers is a team of 2. A big 2v2 fight against the Kansas City Pioneers. And it's going to be Leifin that gets knocked as well. KCP and a 1v1 gets eliminated. E6 is not losing right now.
Leifin, although the rest of E6 are down minus Slayers, it was Leifin that had the gold knockdown shield, so that res on Slayers was huge because you were able to see that Slayers was able to come back up with some extra health before the third party came in. It's gonna be HP that's over on the other side right here that wanted to actually contest him. High Peak just a little late for this fight, but they're gonna be able to back away with some extra loot, stealing that loot away from the squad.
High Peak gets all of the spoils of war here. Let's put them in a good spot. Slayers goes down to Horizon. So E6, despite quite a few kills and a lot of aggression early and a great game number 1, they get taken out. So KCP out, Vexed out, E6 out. Those are your 3 of your top 5 teams from the leaderboards after game 1. This is going to be shaken up quite a bit. High Peak, we mentioned, Young Hong Kong and Fricks from Denmark. Bovis, the only Latvian player playing in this lobby. Excited to see what this brand new roster and lineup can do. And they are going to have to make themselves pretty slim here and small on this rotation. They don't want to make a lot of noise because they will get focused, but looks like one team's gatekeeping them already.
You see High Peak now going right back to the real estate that they found themselves comfy in, bunkering down with the trident to their backs, the Watson all out and about to negate any sort of grenades hurtled towards them. Look at this loot too, like we talked about from High Peak. The Volt with the gold extended mag that they were able to snatch away from those death boxes from E6, and some extra cover tier 2, but they're not in this next circle. They still have to inch their way into this next circle that's going to be closing in their backs in 30 seconds. As you can see, a Skyward Dive hurtling and right above their heads too.
Alliance gonna get taken out here. It's gonna be actually the bow check bow of, I think it was Kashera of Ascend that got the initial knock, and then Alliance got taken out right after. So here comes the rotate from Valk. Ascend is alive. We've talked a lot about Leifin on E6. Well, Ascend picked up Lufko. No longer playing with VJ. Controller player from Poland. I'm excited to see what Ascend can do. Meanwhile, IG find themselves burrowed up, but not in Storm yet. They have to rotate here in a moment. Shield Bat's going to be popped for JMW, but he doesn't have the HP to deal with. He's barely going to survive on a sliver of health. Uses the Valkyrie to get away and survive for now, but it's all going to be up to Graceful, the last alive. The 3 Muppets are eliminated as well.
Graceful! He's literally on the sliver of the corner on the high ground. You saw the rest of IG jump down immediately because they were already low on health. A bit of a panic here for IG as Graceful is just going to stay stationed up there. No reason to give up the high ground right now with the circle closing in a minute as EKO Esports are going to actually find themselves the free real estate behind that rock.
And I'm wondering, Vicky, why they felt the need to drop off high ground. Maybe they didn't realize that high ground was in zone. Graceful's just sitting up there.
Yeah.
They must have been panic. Must have been. Because Graceful's sitting up there like, what are you guys doing? I'm safe. We're chilling. We can all be alive with the Watson pylon to give us shield and surviving and thriving. But instead, it's going to be all up to Graceful last alive here. But you called it Eco Esports HTP Herald. We've seen quite a bit of him in the Pro League in the past. I believe formerly on Phoenix Legacy, if I remember correctly. Navi. The team from CIS, also alive. Sanya, Rugby, Kron, former CHMK that dominated the early days of the ALGS online tournaments, have been pretty quiet ever since.
They do call out Graceful, who's on the high ground right now, though. And they're not going to have him in their line of sight, so Navi are just going to have to focus their attention at the squad who's running that taser comp with the Newcastle and Watson on the other side of the field, kind of bunkering down on an island. Looks like a lonely island here, but that's okay with them, but it won't be great if they are sandwiched in between Navi and the squad that's right behind them here. So Navi are trying to capitalize right now. They do find some broken shields off of a huge missile swarm from Rugby.
Whoop. The Gaiman Gladiators
it's Gaiman.
Taken out. That is huge. They got focused, and Navi, their peers in the CIS, are absolutely frying right now to the right. But they're going to have to try and take this positioning here. I don't know if they want to, because it's an absolute bloodbath in those rocks. But that is going to be in zone. That's going to be the rotate they'll have to play. Look at the zone, though, Vicky. So much no man's land. Not a lot of cover to work with as Lufko of Ascend is going to get taken out. Kashera with 5 HP get a Newcastle ultimate his way to death as well as Eco takes him out. That was great.
He delivered himself as a box for an early Christmas gift here for EKO. Thank you, Ascend as EKO now. I mean, when you pay for express shipping, this is the best way for EKO to now get this free real estate too. They got the loot right behind them. They get the knock at the same time. You can see IG International, the squad that does get eliminated. Turkish Stars that wanted this lonely island, they get taken out here too. Remember, Navi's on the other side as they're looking to engage onto EKO, but they're engaging on open ground.
Oh my goodness, EKO in a 2v, they're gonna do it! Echo Esports, one of the last invited teams, are gonna end up on top. The all-British team of Zuni, Bardo, and Harold. They win game number 2 with quite a few kill points as well. A solid game 2 for them as they will leap up in the standings. We're of course gonna throw it back to Rain Day here to help us break down the action after game number 2.
Oh my gosh, Echo Esports, they do it, and in dramatic fashion. I think most people would have had their money on Na'Vi coming out on that one, especially with the tried and true roster. But I talked about Heaven and Hell, I talked about offense and defense. Those were the lineups. It was the Newcastle Watson and Valkyrie versus the Valkyrie, Seer, and Horizon. Well, it was the offense that won this time around. Let's go ahead and bring Vicky Kitty on with me to talk game 2. John, take a break. We'll see you for game 3 in just a few minutes. But Vicky, I mean, that ending right there, Echo Esports played clinically, and, you know, they deserved it.
Yeah, and we saw what happens to Turkish Stars when you manage to get into that island, that final circle positioning a little too early. You were sandwiched between Ascend, you saw Na'Vi on the other side, you saw Graceful holding on to his life, and Echo Esports, they came up from the side, they came in from the left line, and they were able to actually go in and take control over the rest of the fight, because Na'Vi had already taken a lot of damage when they were traversing through the open ground between where they were originally situated in into where the island was. Again, there was just open water between themselves and the island, right. So there wasn't really much cover for them to work with.
Well, at this point, as we take a look at what transpired over the course of the game, I want to throw this conversation out. I've been throwing out the chat. I've been making sure people are aware of, Vicky, the Heaven and Hell, the offense versus defense, the go for it or try to hold it down. It seems like the offense is starting to shift here, and I love that this composition that has been so innovative to our esport here in Apex Legends is now shining yet again. What are your thoughts on this? Was this more of a fluke? Do you see this kind of being the way when these two lineups go at each other, that offense ends up winning? I mean, what's your take on this whole concept as we take a look at what transpired in game 2?
You're really banking on making sure that you're predicting that final circle positioning on the money, because when you are playing a bunker down comp, you put yourself in a situation where you're denying yourself loot, and you also could have the chance of the circle pulling away from you, where other squads already have you in their line of sight with an aggressive composition that they were able to force their way into, like we saw from Echo, who took the game with, by the way, 12 kills, so they were still able to frag out before taking the dub on top of it all. So very similar to what we saw from E6 in game number 1, our first place teams are able to get a lot of KP in the process while still holding on to that better position.
I love what you mentioned there too. It's kind of like you're making a little bit of a hedge on the fact that it's going to end where you think it will end when you have more of that setup composition. And so if it doesn't end there, if your position is just a little bit off, more vulnerable than you expected, that's where it starts to not have the flexibility as a Seer, Valkyrie, Horizon composition does, which can be aggressive on any area. It could take to the skies, it could take to the high ground with the gravity lift, and it can bring your whole team there with just a simple tactical. I love the way we're seeing different powerhouse dynamics for what Apex Legends can be, and I just kind of want to walk through it. I mean, I think we have a little bit of footage here of what our final circle looked like. Oh, we actually do not, I'm hearing, but at the end of the day, I want to walk through something that to me is very important. I know you all will see it at home, the standings. That's right. Let's see how this ended up. We're going to have take a look at it here. And Vicky, while we're getting all that ready, my big question is, oh, we do have the final circle. Okay, beautiful. That's what I thought. Echo Esports, look at this. This is the aggressiveness, Vicky. Walk me through this play for them.
Yes. So they land in down B, so they were able to rotate away from the line of sight of a lot of the other squads that were so congested in that middle portion of the map, where we saw players like KCP coming in and actually clean up on the outskirts of Jurassic Park. Echo just were able to rotate on the other side, passing Mill. They were going south towards Cenote K, so they were out of a lot of the fights that would have actually costed them this game, because they could have gotten third party, fourth party. Instead, they're back to the circle against Cenote Caves, and they were able to ease their way into that island without rotating too early where they were going to get sandwiched.
Yeah, and also it's a really disadvantaged place to try to push somebody, because you've got to go out into the open sand and into the water and try to fight someone who's had their backs just to a wall, and you're going to be shot, you're going to be exposed. So the nature of where they were standing actually gave them a really great kind of line of sight to where the fight was going to happen, and also made them a bad target for a lot of these players. The other thing I kind of want to mention too is we saw KCP and Element 6 go at it. We saw a little bit of that 3v3 fight. Element 6 came out on top again. What did you think about that? Lifeline, life in. I mean, bringing life to the squad.
I really like how we saw the gold knockdown going for the Horizon instead of a lifeline. For all we know, they probably had 2, and which would be fantastic for E6, because that means they got a good amount of loot rotating away from North Wall, since we know, rather North Pad, since we know that's where they land. Yeah. But E6 is a solid squad. I mean, we keep talking about KCP because, of course, looking at the history of this team, they've been playing together for so long. They're a great pop-off team to also listen to when we do our listen-ins, but E6 is equally right up there when it comes to consistency in EMEA. So with them coming out on top of that fight, wasn't worth it, because then they got third-partied right afterwards. So that's kind of the drawback. Although they took care of KCP, I mean, they met KCP in the lobby right afterwards.
Well, the teams are getting a lot of kills, and let's go to the standings here. We do have the match results for you of how it ended up for Game 2. And look at that, Echo Esports with a 24 bomb, just a point under what we saw done earlier on in game number 1 with Element 6, but Element 6 still finds themselves just a few points behind with 6. Not as sincere, though, a 17-point game too, Vicky. They cannot slouch at that. Strong performances across the board as we head into our bottom 10.
Yeah, this is our match 2 results. Just looking at the placement that some of these squads kind of settled in for that second game with Bitfix Gaming. This is the team that went in for the third party, or actually I believe it was High Peak that went in for the third party, that were able to clean up that last straggler for our squads that were fighting between KCP and E6. But it's nice to see how some of these squads on this second page, Phoenix Legacy, Alliance, Forge, who got third in game number 1, and even 3 Muppets, unfortunately falling earlier than they were expecting in this game too.
Right. After such a good game 1 as well, let's see where it landed all of these teams. Diamond Gladiators, Alliance, we've got to talk about them not performing just yet. Alliance, decent game 1, not a good game 2. They're both in the bottom 10, but Element 6 and Echo Esports, after 2 dominant performances, are sharing the top spot, Vicky. Not as sincere, Pioneers, Turkish Stars rounding out that top 5.
It's nice to see that Echo Esports is able to even out with E6, though, because remember, E6 did fall, I believe, in 15th place for that game number 2, so that further highlights that they were able to frag out, clean up 5 kills, I believe, while still maintaining that first place spot. But the gap is closing, Rain Day. You see Navi right behind them with 20 points, KCP with 18 points, despite dropping in 16th place for that game number 2, so not a large gap once again after that game 2, and we still have one more game on Storm Point.
All right, well, let's bring John back in. He's had a little bit of a break. John, I want to get your take. Exciting game 2 yet again. It was more of a standoff that we saw this time around between Not As Sincere and Echo Esports. Echo Esports, they get the dub, and it puts them in first place, sharing that spot with, of course, Element 6. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. The fact that we saw basically the exact opposite in terms of standings and results of what we saw in game 1 means, well, it's anyone's game, as these are the best type of Pro League days, right? It's not 3 or 4 or 5 teams that are just dominating, and it's a 1, 2, or 3 team or 3-horse race towards the end. It's 10 to 15 teams that can place top 3 and take home the majority of the points. And keep in mind, for everyone watching at home, that's what's at stake here. Obviously, there's the $20,000 first place prize for the entirety of the Pro League. There's qualifying for Split 1 playoffs, a LAN competition, by the way. We're going back to LAN 3 times this year, which is going to be awesome.
Right.
But each Pro League day is a chance to earn points to qualify and to ultimately end up in that top prize pool spot. So teams are vying for those sweet, sweet points here for 1st through 10th, I believe, place overall, or 16th.
All right. So we know that we're on our Season 14 patch still. Season 15 is out in the game. Obviously, these players, if they're playing live, going to have a different experience. You playing live at home, you're not going to be seeing this. Significant changes that went into this Season 14 patch. You saw things like the 30-30 repeater gets the dual loader incorporated into the weapon. You see changes with the barrels being taken out and adjusted to give SMGs a little bit more hip fire spread as well. Assault rifles, a little bit more mid to long range purpose, and those SMGs up to that close range. But the G7 Scout not necessarily on highlight, as we will see it after November 20th. 30-30 repeater, though, very much involved, and that is what Na'Vi was using. John, I just mentioned, you talked to me about what you saw a little bit earlier. Weapon-wise, are we going to be seeing a lot more of that today, you think?
Yeah, interestingly enough, in my eyes, the 30-30 in this patch is one of the stronger kind of long-range weapons. So the 30-30 and the G7 Scud are both good. And I thought we were going to see a lot more G7 than we were going to see 30-30. So I think you'll still see a mix of both. Obviously, whatever you can get in hand and on display. And maybe in that scenario, Na'Vi just had themselves a 30-30 and was able to put it to use. But we've seen a lot more 30-30 in this recent patch than we've seen in seasons past. And obviously, from an SNG perspective, expect a lot more Volt in car than R99, as the R99 magazine buff is not in effect yet. We talked about that a little bit earlier as well. And then that good old R301, everyone loves it. The good old trusty, my favorite weapon in the game, most people's favorite weapon. You'll see a lot of R301 as well.
Vicky, your thoughts on that weapon meta right now that we're seeing? What could people expect at home?
Hey, my favorite weapon, the GG7, as I like to call it, because it is absolutely destroying when it comes to those open ground fights. But something that I also love to pinpoint, the charge rifle being as dominating as it is, especially on maps like Stormpoint. I mean, what do you have to lose when you see a bunch of these Valkyries sitting ducks using the Skyward Dive to get into position here? We see the charge rifle really come in, and we also saw that the charge rifle was in the hands of KCP before they made their engagement that actually caused their doom in the end of that game too.
All right, well, we're just getting the server set up. We're going to take a very quick break. Do not go anywhere. Maybe get a little bit of water, get back and settled. In a few minutes, we will be starting Game 3, our final game on Stormpoint, in our first day of Year 3 of the ALGS. We'll be right back. Okay. Welcome back to year 3 of the ALGS, and we are in a really nice numerology comparison there because we're on game 3 of Storm Point, year 3, our start of the season, and it has been fantastic so far. We've seen Lifeline wins. We have seen 2 teams, both with the letter E, Element 6 and Echo Esports, take game 1 and 2. My name's Evan. I don't know if that's a good sign or not, but I'm excited about it. Good things for E. Will we continue to see it? I'm not quite sure, but we've got our casters very, very ready to go. Let's bring them back in. John and Vicky, blistering start. Quick thoughts heading into game 3. John, predictions on kind of what you're seeing in the way this lobby is shaking up.
Yeah, it's tough to predict based on the absolute roll of dice we saw in game 1 and 2. So many different teams competing, but ultimately, I got Vexed. I think Vex is going to have a big game here. We saw them get caught on rotations in the last 2 games. I think they'll learn from those mistakes. They're obviously going to keep playing edge, keep playing aggressive. I think Vex is going to go big in game 3. Vicky, how about you? Any predictions?
When it comes to the different teams that we've been seeing really pop off, I'm honestly seeing this lobby being very close than what I actually thought originally going into day 1 in the EMEA region. But we have seen 2 things that have been a common factor with these end circles. We saw them all pull towards slightly more toward the west than we have towards the east. Between North Pad and the left north side of Barometer, I'm expecting more of these left squads to have the advantage. The squads leaving Cenote Caves, leaving North Pad, leaving down Beast. Definitely keep your eyes on those teams like E6, and Echo Esports, of course, the 2 teams that are leading the overall lobbies, to actually continue on the domination if we do see these more similar circles continuously pull over to the west.
Well, the time to wait is no longer. Just want to mention the command center having a few technical difficulties. We're getting that fixed up. Please be patient, and thank you for staying with us. But without further ado, let's get into it. Game 3, Storm Point. John, Vicky, take it away.
Thanks so much, Rain Day. And you called it. Obviously, the first Pro League day back, first broadcast, first ALGS competition. So working out some of the kinks. Appreciate the patience, y'all. As always, much love to every single one of you tuning in right now. Hope you're enjoying the action at home. Every single, I know, I don't even have chat up, but I already know we got Leo with the lion in the chat. We got Birdie in the chat. We got Kylie, moderator extraordinaire. Big shout out to every single one of y'all, the mainstays and the entire Apex community tuning in and supporting the ALGS. Much love as always. It was awesome, by the way, at TwitchCon, having a chance to meet up with the entire community. Last time we met up at TwitchCon in 2019, it was like 50 people. This time it was like 250 plus, if not even more than that. It was awesome to see the entire Apex community coming through. But hey, this is game 3. This is our last game on Storm Point. Vicky, we'll be heading to World's Edge right after this one. You started to talk a little bit about the zones and rotates in the pre-show with Evan. Any other thoughts in terms of what we're going to see here in game 3?
I'm expecting our preseason qualifier teams to continuously pop off because that's what they have really been doing. Not only did we talk about 3 Muppets before, but we're even seeing consistency for our lower end squads that were invited, like Turkish Stars, that have consistently been in the top 10. We've been seeing a lot of these teams really pop off. Corpa even at one point coming in for a great timing on the third party. Turkish Stars have been able to not only stay consistent, but the likes of Navi have been able to do the same thing, getting second place in game number 2. But let's get started here. Let's not waste any more time. Game number 3 here on Storm Point, the last game that we're going to have on Storm Point before we move on to World's Edge. I'm wondering here, John, are we going to see the consistency of team compositions between the Watson and Newcastle like we have been seeing before we move on to World's Edge, or are we going to see the same thing happen on World's Edge?
I think we'll see a lot less Watson on display on World's Edge. You'll see a lot less Watson and Newcastle overall. Expect a little bit of Caustic might be thrown in. You see some Caustic teams being played on World's Edge throughout. Seer will obviously continue to be a mainstay as well, as we have an antenna hotspot. So it's going to be the rookie squad in Bitfix Gaming that will get themselves the hotspot loot. And meanwhile, let's take a look at the map here. So now we get a nice overall view of all of the teams, where everyone's landing here, and where the zone or ring is going to pull. And it's going to be yet another center zone here. So keep an eye on antenna. Strong chance that antenna is the late game end zone, and BFG will be the best positioned. Ascend dropping right in Jurassic Park, just northwest of that. This is a great zone for them as well. I think they were playing Newcastle, Vicky. So with Newcastle, if they can get themselves some of the antenna real estate, they'll be in a really, really good spot. I think Ascend and BFG stock way up based on where this zone is. Any other thoughts on what we're going to see in terms of rotates in this initial
I just really like this circle because it could be a free-for-all here, because we could see it pull more towards the east side fight towards antenna, like you were mentioning before, would be even more chaotic if it could be by that choke point between fish farms into Shipfall, that Gale Station spot that we've seen before. I do think it's going to pull a little bit more north from there, though. But my eyes are on that beacon that's north of Barometer and we're south of Ascend, where you could get the information of not only where this next circle is going to be pulling, but where you want to situate yourself in. And for Ascend, they're in the perfect spot because they can take the 50-50 how they want when it comes to their rotation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. They'll get that intel on zone where it's going to be ending. Meanwhile, teams like Eco Esports are going to be all the way towards down Beast, and it will be a far rotation from them. So expect Echo, the team that did a great job in game 2, taking first place, are going to have a really tough rotate on in game number 3.
Optics here. Sniper.
That would come in handy.
Sniper ammo here.
All right, getting situated here. High Peak, one of our squads that have actually been able to not only pop off when it comes to some of this early loot, but they've also already found themselves in an early fight. Remember what you were mentioning before, it's the fight here in Antenna with the hotspot at stake. High Peak are looking to take this early fight already. The Seer is in their lineup when it comes to the team composition. It's BFG, wasting no time actually to contest this squad. Bitfix Gaming looking to get extremely aggressive, but they're already rocking all blue Evos. You can see Ascend in the backline too, looking for a third party. So a lot of early action started things off for game number 3 on Storm Point.
Yeah, for those that didn't see it, High Point actually dropped just north of Antenna on the other side of the mountain. So it's a really fast rotate for High Point. I like that because they know it's going to be this Antenna finish. Meanwhile, the fact that Bitfix left Antenna means that Ascend will be able to get pretty much all of the Antenna POI to themselves if they decide to play big. But this 3v3 fight here might just persist, might be a little bit of poking and prodding. These teams got to be careful here because a third party will be here, will be coming soon if they take this fight. So I'm really interested to see how High Peak and Bitfix, again, 2 rookie teams with not as much experience, how they play this. I think if you were watching Gaiman or KCP, they probably would have aped by now. But again, Watsons on both teams make it very, very hard to push.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, High Peak usually land in the beacon spot that's to the east of Cascade Falls, so they had to go here for a really quick rotate around just to situate themselves in Antenna. So with High Peak playing the Watson comp and bunkering down in this building, they're going to note that none of these squads are going to try to force their way in. High Peak noting that Ascend is around the corner with some shots already getting taken out onto Bitfix Gaming over on the other side, means that they're not going to push unless they see one of those knocks come out, as KCP also in an early fight against Navi. This is a huge early fight to have here between both these teams.
Massive. Team that performed in game 1 versus the team that performed in game 2 with a second place finish in Navi. 2 historic teams, 2 former teammates, by the way. Strafey used to be on this Navi roster and org. This is a big one over in Wall. And by the way, over towards Command Center. And this should be pretty secluded because they're on the high side. Here comes the push wide right from Strafey. Here comes the Kansas City steam train as it looks like they're going to find the first knock. It's going to be a knock that comes through as well from Surdell on Kron. 2 knocks are ready for KCP. Last person will be cleaned up. The Ava 8 shots are going to connect, and Nasky's healing. So right now, Sanya's looking to make a play. He stays alive. He gets the knock on Strafey as well, but Dell is still alive, I believe, as Sanya will go down, and KCP win the clean 3v3 versus Navi.
That was still a really nice little skirmish, though, from Sanya. Playing off the knockdown shield, having the scary Eva 8 here, too. But you're dealing with KCP and the PK as well. So they're going to be able to come out on top after this fight, having that early KP. That means that Navi's the first squad to go down in this game number 3. So remember, in the overall standings, they were sitting in 3rd place. Now this is going to be a huge dent to their game plan before moving on to World's Edge.
Switching back over to Antenna, where we're expecting this game to finish. We mentioned it and predicted Ascend to take the real estate here of Antenna, and that's exactly what they do. They took 2 buildings, center building and left building. Looks like they're going to all opt to basically turtle up on the lefter building here on screen. We got Heroes, the French squad nearby, and we have a team, I think it was the Turkish Stars, coming from Shipfall as well. So we have Turkey, we got France, and we got Portugal, all in a multinational battle here over towards Antenna. It's going to be an interesting fight, an interesting progression, but keep in mind these 3 teams are going to be content posting up. You're not going to see much action. This is almost like a Fragment East finish on World's Edge, where there's so many buildings, there's so much real estate, and it's not the most wise decision to push with aggression. So expect this to slow down here. I'd love to keep an eye on some of our rotating teams. We saw, teams like Echo, who got a top 1 finish last game, have to rotate all the way from down Beast. Teams that are playing Edge, like the Kansas City Pioneers and Alliance, really interested to see how they are rotating here in this Antenna finish.
Yeah, with them taking up this real estate, they're just looking to take their time. It's kind of like the alliance approach that we've been noting a lot, but oh my goodness, the congestion on the east side of this circle is insane. You got Vexed out here, as well as Alliance already to their south. Launchpad is looking to get hot very quick, and we know that the transition between Launchpad into the western side from Launchpad towards Antenna, that choke point, there's little to no cover really there. There's that uphill battle from any of the squads that are waiting on the outskirts of Antenna, which could be an early rotate that could get easily sandwiched if they do stick there. So I'm interested to see how that plays out for some of these squads like Vex Gaming and Alliance that are taking their time and playing the edge of the circle.
Yeah, speaking of Launchpad, we do have Vexed and GG, Gaming Gladiators, in a fight towards Launchpad. Gaming Gladiators had to hit a pretty far rotation for them to be able to get over here to Launchpad. Meanwhile, the Vex squad drop in Launchpad, so really easy rotate from them. J Savage, Ro, and Digi from Forge, they are in. They drop in Stormcatcher. They're nearby as well on their rotate. Alliance, you saw on the map, made a really fast rotation all the way from Lightning Rod as well. So a clumped type of endgame circle. Horizon and Urban with the charge rifle here to do some damage, and we're gonna have ourselves a pretty slow early game to mid game here, Vicky.
Yeah, you see the charge rifle in the hands of Urban as well, just taking their time, like you mentioned before. They have a beacon to their backs, but not too sure if they were able to get that scan since we're not able to see where that next circle is going to be pulling just yet. Urban looking both left to right with the charge rifle to call out any sort of squads that are in the middle of this rotation, but they're keeping their backs to the edge of the circle where we could see some of these teams exiting out of Launchpad like we were talking about before. There is that choke point that could lead out of Launchpad to the side, exactly towards where Urban is aiming down his sights, as KCP playing off the low ground. This is the squad playing on the outskirts of where Horizon's faced right now, and they have the positional advantage against KCP, but they still have that natural cover of the rocks.
Yeah, this is always such a tough fight, right? It's almost like a fortress that Horizon is sitting on top of right now. And even in, when you're playing ranked, when you're playing your games online, everyone's probably been here before. Rotating through when a team has complete high ground control in this unnamed POI, very difficult to do, but you do have a lot of cover to work with. I love the level design here in this area. The fact that KCP does have quite a few rocks and mountains and can make a somewhat clean rotation, but not a free rotation is the important thing. If you look, if they decide to rotate east, that yeet cannon, as we decided to call it, the launch cannon, is going to be their only piece of cover that they'll have on that rotate, but Horizon's going to punish them if they do try to do so.
I love it. The yeet kid. I mean, that's exactly. Ooh, Urban took a huge shot real quick. Hold on. He had to pop the Phoenix kit real quick as Ring 2 is going to be closing in behind their backs. See how quickly Urban was able to drop down from the high ground and immediately just went inside the building. Said, all right, okay, you got that real quick. So what happens when you try to face off with the charge rifle? Sometimes people are out for blood after they see that you're using it.
Yep. Here's the G7 Scout, by the way. We talked about the fact that we'll likely see a good amount of G7 Scout here. Double tap trigger is still a purple loot as opposed to gold loot, so it's not going to be as rare. And 0-0, putting that G7 Scout to use. G7 in flatline. Meanwhile, it looks like they're going to drop and just try to extend a little bit. I like this decision here. I call it being on a leash. You obviously have a home base, but you're on a slight leash in which you can work with to try and get some damage, maybe break ice, get some intel, but then you have to work your way back to home base, which is exactly what he's going to do. Meanwhile, E6, one of our most aggressive teams, again, look at their kit. Red, gold, and purple shields to their name. They're going to push up here and a big fight's going to ensue. The damage gonna come through for K Swinny. He's gonna connect for at least 100. He's gonna crack one. Slayers gets the knock, but Trix is the last alive for Corpa. Trix finds himself a knock on K Swinny in that 1v1, but leaves himself, I believe, in a 1v2 against Leifin and Slayers. The knockdown shield is all he has. Goodbye to that knockdown shield. Goodbye to Corpa. E6 continues to be one of the best fighting teams, but here comes the third party. Great use of the lifeline Q to try and give themselves a heal over time, but it's not gonna be enough. E6 will be eliminated at the hands of Phoenix Legacy.
That was muted for a second right there, Follow. I was popping off because I saw the third party moving in right from the distance with Phoenix Legacy moving in. Are you kidding me? The timing for E6 in these fights cannot get any worse because they keep getting third party the moment that they come out on top. But this is even better news for the likes of Phoenix Legacy, because now they're going to be able to move in and look who got whiff of the fight. How dare you not invite us as KCP now move in on the action to try to contest Phoenix Legacy.
Hey, listen, never not invite Nasky to a party. This man has a life at the party here, as he's going to third party, actually make it a fourth party this fight. Dell going wide, trying to get angles, and they know that they have all of Phoenix Legacy stuck in Storm right now, just eating damage. And this is exactly the result. Half health or less for both. Imp is going to pop a med kit, and it's going to help. But KCP smell blood right now like sharks in the water, and they are fully kitted, by the way. So they'll just continue to gatekeep. All they have to do is do a little bit of damage, and they will get the kill points as a result if they die to Storm. I don't know what Phoenix Legacy is going to do right here. Not much of an option. You got to try and fight this.
Here you see KCP now are going to be able to hang out, at least by the high ground for right now, but Phoenix Legacy playing on the outskirts of this circle are going to take a lot of damage, as unfortunately Imp gets taken down immediately. Hoodie's about to meet up with him without popping up the syringe in time. Now it leaves up to KCP to clean up Sabs, and it's Phoenix Legacy that get cleaned up. Looking at the positioning of where this fight actually went down here, though, Follow, I'm wondering where's the positioning from the other squads that are holding on the outskirts of the circle, because a lot of teams have already taken up the real estate in that choke point that we were mentioning before on the outskirts of antenna that lead out of Launchpad.
Yeah, that's right. Nice shot of KCP right there. It was Dell that broke ice. And then who is it? None other than Dell, one of the most aggressive, flashy keyboard and mice players in the game. Well played right there from Dell to get the first knock or two. Meanwhile, back in Antenna, well, pretty pleasant view. The exact same thing we saw before. Ascend, Turkish Stars, and Heroes still posted up. Echo is going to decide to actually take the bottom of this Oreo, 3-stacked layer location, and they'll be content holding this low ground. But obviously, it's a pretty tough spot because you're susceptible to line of sight from quite a few different areas. But given that these teams are going to be playing inside the houses, they should be fairly well poised. They're going to get the intel with Seer, and we'll see how they decide to play this.
Look, enemy over here.
See right now with Echo Esports, the winners of game number 2 now. See them walking to the car. Sentinels as one of the members dropped down. Oh, that was something that Heroes is going to regret. Are you kidding me? I'm not too sure if that was by accident, but that's just free KP delivered on a silver platter to Echo Esports.
You know, Wrath is a rookie, but, you know, that was quite a silly play from the Silly Rabbit and Wrath, and that's going to cost Heroes their lives and the game. Echo gets gifted on a silver platter a first kill. We don't know what the call was right there from Wrath and from Heroes, if they decided to ape or not, but clearly did not work out for them, clearly not on the same page, and clearly Echo is going to capitalize. That's huge, Vicky. This is the team that got first place last game, and they have a chance to pick up 3 more KP and a potential top 3 finish here in game number 3.
And they're looking to dominate the competition, because look at this. Not only with the gold G7, I mean, Herald is having a ball. Turkish Star get eliminated in the feed. As you can see, these Senti shots landing at the same time. Echo Esports are feeding themselves, but they have to open up themselves a little bit as they traverse through that bridge. There's a little bit of open ground here, too. Bardo taking a nice off angle, though. I like this position, but they're playing up the low ground, and they got to get moving now with the circle closing in.
Yeah, by the way, I correct myself from last game. HTP Herald was actually on Game of Drones in the past. I knew we saw quite a bit of HTP Herald as an up-and-comer in ALGS previously. Now playing with 2 new up-and-comers, Zuni and Bardo. Excited to see this team continue to cement themselves, if they can continue to cement themselves as a top team in EU. Some new blood here in year 3 of ALGS. Speaking of new blood, High Peak, Bavis, Fricks, and Young Hong Kong in the same exact position we saw them in that early game. We knew that Bitfix Gaming was also nearby. Meanwhile, Horizon find themselves in a fight against the Kansas City Pioneers. Look at this standoff, and guess who's going to try in third party? It's Jules & Co.
Oh, wow. Well, this is the positioning that you're risking yourselves, as KCP were here for a really long time, and they were fighting time and time again as the break comes in. The R301 from Sir Dell looking to continuously beam as Bitfigs do get taken out in the feed, as you can see by HP. Now, Pioneers are looking to force their way into this next circle. It does close in 50 seconds, but they're finding these cracks left to right.
Yeah, look how well KCP is playing this. I mean, this is the difference between top-tier teams in Apex and why you love Apex as a Battle Royale. It's the most consistent BR. People talk about RNG often in Battle Royales, and yes, there's an element of RNG in Apex Legends, but you see the top teams stay as the top teams for reasons like this. There's no reason that KCP should be the last team alive here. Horizon had the complete advantage, but they do such a good job playing third parties to their advantage and not letting RNG get the best of them, and KCP is the benefactor. They take out Horizon courtesy of some help from Game of Drones, and they will live to fight another day. We'll see if KCP can continue their consistency.
If they can force their way into that next circle at the very least, because they're playing off the other side of the rock that's behind High Peak, who need to start moving now soon. After this Phoenix kit does get popped, here comes the Skyward Dive. But where do you land when the circle is pulling out in the middle of the open? That's the choke point that we were highlighting before leaving Launchpad. And look at this, KCP, they're looking to take a fight right now here too. Artico in some trouble. You see the Newcastle ult as Nasky is moving in. He's looking like a shark with blood in the water.
A little pepper here and there with the Ava 8, connects for 6, 8, 12, 15, and guess what? A full squad wipe is Nasky and the Kansas City Pioneers. They are running through every single team in this lobby. It is insane how good Nasky, Strafey, and Dell, the trio, are. Look at the shots and the beams from Nasky to take out one more as well on HP. On the rotate, they had themselves some shield swaps, and the Kansas City Pioneers, again, I'll keep using the steam train analogy for the Midwest org. They cannot be stopped.
Oh my goodness. And on the other side, you can see IG also gatekeeping on the other side of the mountain. Torre in a lot of trouble here too, as KCP are looking to continue on the pressure onto the southern side of where they're situated. I mean, look at the graveyard of death boxes that they also got to work with. All the loot for everyone. You get loot, everyone gets loot, as they're going to be able to walk away with not only so much damage, but KP as well to their name.
And look at the positioning they find themselves. Very similar to what we saw in game number 1. What we saw at ALGS Champs over in North Pad is going to be this terrain low on stairs, Watson fences. You have yourself some line of sight cover in what is kind of like a bunker. Really good positioning for KCP, and it's in zone. So again, I almost, it's almost like a written script here, and KCP is proving me right. You talk about the consistency of this squad. Despite having such difficult rotations playing edge, they find themselves God spot. They play so well. Not many teams can do this, and this is what separates the best from the good. KCP is proving that they are the best team in EU right now after coming off a LAN championship with Verhulst as a sub. They're looking just as good with their original trio, this Strafey.
Seeing them all together, the gang back together again with Strafey is always so nice. And look at the amount of mobile respawn beacons that they've just laid out, making up some makeshift cover as well. The EMP coming in and the follow-up. You want KCP to scoop things up. I mean, this is a buffet. They want to eat for free out here, as they're not only out of the line of sight of a lot of the pressure, but they're playing the edge of the circle, and they're still in that next circle. I'm looking at Ascend, who's going to also be rotating right before their eyes in their line of sight. You can currently see right now, IG in a lot of trouble too. Huge thermite grenade actually taking down 2 members of IG International. And now IG International, they get cleaned up, and we got 5 squads left for KCP to try to clean up if they have the opportunity, with Ascend now making their way into their left.
The Kansas City Pioneers are bullying this lobby right now. Look, they all have pretty much full health in this fight against Forge, and again, they're gonna get a full squad wipe here. KCP with 6 kills to Nasky's name alone, at least 14 kills for all of them, I believe. They cannot be stopped. They are going to take out yet another team. Forge, goodbye. 4 squads remain, and the Kansas City Pioneers are sitting as the kings on top of this hill right now, because guess what? Alliance and Ascend are fighting nearby, and KCP is going to third party again.
Oh no, this is gonna be free KP for KCP as Alliance get cleaned up. Now Ascend is already low, as Game of Drones are also in a great position to move in for a third party. They gotta look to their left. That's where KCP is gonna be rotating from right now. Alliance going down. This is 3 squads left. You got Game of Drones, Ascend, and KCP left in the lobby.
Try Game of Drones versus KCP. Nasky's gonna get the first knock on Jules, and it's gonna be a 3v2. The Kansas City Pioneers have control, have high ground, and are just staring down at the rest of the lobby like absolute aristocrats on top of the Parthenon, looking at peasants below. Max Strafey connects for some damage, and he cannot be stopped. KCP on top.
I got the high ground now. Nobody gonna force them off here too. Well, they're just gonna have this natural cover right behind the wall. They're looking to clean up all the down players that they have in their line of sight. That's gonna be post-kill right now, as Ascend still in this lobby, maybe down to just a little lone rat, but you see KCP are moving in. This is the Exterminator, as they're gonna be able to try to get as much KP as they can, cleaning up Ascend. That just leaves Game of Drones versus KCP.
Later Ascend, 3v2 fight. I believe they did not get the res, but they may have indeed. So Game of Drones versus Kansas City Pioneers, and KCP is going for the kill. They swapped out their Red Evo shields for purple. Doesn't matter. They don't need them. Look at the damage, look at the shots, and look at the dub for KCP. They will be your champions of game number 3. What an absolute dominant performance from the Kansas City Pioneers. Wow.
Insane, from their positioning to the KP that they were able to wrap up. I mean, that was a very spread out, elongated, very end fight. Rain, I mean, I need to know what your thoughts are after KCP just dominated game 3, our final game on Storm Point.
Kansas City Pioneers, welcome to the ALGS. Man, oh man, in emphatic fashion, they take down game 3. And what I was looking at, if you saw me off camera, you might have seen my slack jaw open and just saying, I cannot believe we are witnessing this type of dominance. But of course, let's talk about it, John and Vicky. Come on back in here and join me as we kind of have our little bit of halftime here to talk about how the first 3 games have gone. KCP, though, on a tear. John, you mentioned it. The steam train, you talked about the Parthenon and aristocrats. You had me traveling all over the world there in all different scenarios. I guess that's what KCP does to you.
That's right. And look, they're a team from Kansas City featuring players from Europe. It just makes no sense. No, I'm just kidding. Big shout out to the Kansas City Pioneers holding it down in EMEA and in this broadcast. We got to show a little EU love, little USA love, but kudos to them. I mean, look, we saw it in game number 1 to start, Rain Day. We saw some elements of what makes them so great. The 3v3 fights that they're so good at taking, their ability to ape is better than almost any team in EU, but ultimately their chemistry, how well they play on a leash to one another. All 3 of them never get too spread out from one another and never find themselves making dumb plays. They are so incredibly good, and their chemistry was in absolute display there in game number 3. The fact that they were able to play edge the entire time, but then find God Spot and take God Spot from Gaiman Gladiators, it was just so well played.
My God. And Vicky, I want to get your thoughts, but let's look at some highlights over how game 3 transpired. Talk to me. KCP, obviously it leaves us stunned, but was that what you took away from this? How could you not, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, from the very beginning, from the get-go, they took out the just demons that are Na'Vi in this lobby, and they were literally side by side, I believe, in the overall leaderboards originally here too. So taking care of Na'Vi first was a big deal for KCP. But the fact that they were able to continue on their domination throughout the rest of the game, even moving in saying, hold on, Phoenix Legacy, what about our invite to this party? They took out Phoenix Legacy and they kept every single squad on the outskirts of this circle. That's why they were able to clean up like, what, 19 kills in that game alone?
Woo! I cannot wait to see these standings. It is about to get scary. And you saw Echo Esports, you saw Element 6 standing in their way still. Again, John, KCP did not falter. They took any fight that came their way, and they were the victors in it. That's starting to look scary to me if I'm the rest of this lobby, seeing the confidence and the synergy that they're putting together here in just game 3.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, this is the moment I mentioned. Look, playing edge on the edge of zone right now, and they were actually right before this in one of the worst positions that they could have possibly been in, with Horizon on high ground above them. But they find a way to escape that poor position, to find the ape on Phoenix Legacy, to get the refresh and loot on all of the E6 loot that was below, and then use all of that loot to dominate from the rest of the way. You saw it here against High Peak, easy, done. You see it here with the fight against Gaiman Gladiators, and then by Forge, easy, done. They were untouchable in every single one of these fights, all full shields at the bottom left of your screen. They barely took a scratch, and then that is the same exact story that we saw going into this last and final fight against Game of Drones. KCP was so dominant. I can't wait to see the standings, Evan, because they're going to have so many kills. You have to think it's at least a 25-plus point game.
Well, here it is. You see the standings. Vicky, we knew they had a big game, but did you know it was this big?
Sheesh, 19 kills. Yes, I was predicting it because we saw the different point of views for the different players on KCP, but each player had their own standoff moments. By the way, Natsuki, I think alone had like 11 of those kills, so that's a nice little cherry on top for KCP. Pioneers are now leading the way in the overall leaderboards. I can only imagine, with Game of Drones right behind them with another good positioning from them. This is one of the squads that tries to prioritize playing on the edge of these final circles to exactly do what KCP did in that final game.
Yeah, Alliance, Gaming Gladiators getting involved. I'm glad to see them on page 1, John, but a couple of teams as well. Look at 3 Muppets who started strong. You look at Natus Vincere, who were in that final fight in game 2. Very different story here in game 3.
Yeah, that's right. You know, look, Vicky asked me any predictions. You asked any predictions, Randy, and I've been giving KCP so much love. I was like, let me send the love to Vexed Gaming. Well, clearly the Caster's Curse came through here. A slow game for them. They get taken out early, so not the best storm point for Vexed Gaming and for some of these other squads. 3 Muppets showed some life in game number 1, but look, at the end of 3 games, let's take a look at the overall standings, Evan, because going into World's Edge, KCP on top, but it is neck and neck.
And it's because of that game, the 31-point bomb. I was going to say, usually that's when a team separates themselves from the lobby. But in this case, KCP had been showing strength, but it had been about Element 6. It had been about Echo Esports beforehand. And now they have put themselves in the conversation to be leading, but just by a narrow margin. Game of Drones, They had 6 points entering game 3. Now they've got 26. They're in 4th place. Big story there for them as well. And you got to keep an eye on Vex Gaming. 3 Muppets who have performed nicely, and IG International as well, picking up Graceville here as Bryn retired. So many different stories. But let's talk about another story, Vicky. Get your reaction to the top 10 kill leaders here. No surprise that 2 of the 3 KCP members are sitting in 1st and 2nd place.
This is crazy right here, because not only do you see that Nasky really did lead the way with 11 kills, I saw that they got a lot of damage done. I saw the KP that they were clean up, but 11 kills, are you kidding me? Serdell right behind him with 5. I mean, look at the gap already just between Nasky and Serdell. Yeah, they're still both of them are on KCP, but it's the gap that separates Nasky and the rest that should highlight the way that Nasky is playing today.
John, talk about Jules on Game of Drones, playing that Valkyrie. This is a good sign for them, getting that 20-point game heading into the second half of this tournament.
Yeah, Taishin's been called the CEO of Germany for quite some time, but Jules the German trying to say, hey, there's a new reign, a new leader in town here with a great performance. 3rd place in kill leadership with 5 kills. Game of Drones, a couple of rookies playing alongside Rondon has been looking really, really solid. Torj as well on that team. So again, it's interesting. The top 4 kill leaders, Evan, 2 of them from KCP, 2 of them from Game of Drones. We see a lot of consistency and really a top-heavy kill leaderboard here overall.
And if this was a real-life scenario, it might be the lobster caught in the slow boil, not realizing that the temperature has gotten just too high to escape a terrible fate. For the rest of the lobby, can they raise the heat as well for our last 3 games of the day? We're about to find out. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with the second half of our Year 3 ALGS debut. It is here. I've been hype all day. You know why? Year 3 has started, and we are halfway through day number 1, broadcast number 1 for EMEA, and it has gotten hotter and better each and every game. We saw KCP put together a 31-point finish, just adding that org to Apex Legends, and also seeing the return of Nasky, Strafe, and Dell, one of the best stories in our league. And I cannot wait to get into game number 4. Now, John, Vicky, as we get to game 4, that has its new levels of, I wouldn't say restrictions, but you've got to ride a different map to victory now. It's World's Edge instead of Stormpoint. Your eyes, John, what are you expecting with the switch with the new map for the last 3 games?
Yeah, switching over to World's Edge. Traditionally, we saw a lot of Horizon only on Stormpoint last season. Well, expect a lot of Horizon to be played here on World's Edge alongside Seer. And you're going to see a little bit less in terms of Watson, a little bit less in terms of Newcastle. You'll still see some teams rock that team composition. But what I'm really interested to see, will we still see Crypto in the hands of Game of Drones, E6? Will we still see Lifeline in the hands of E6? Those are some kind of questions I can't even answer because it's so off meta. I don't even know where to start, Vicky.
Yeah, I'm really excited because when it comes to the different compositions that we get to witness moving away from Stormpoint into World's Edge, it does trickle down to where these teams feel at most comfortable. Where do they feel more at home? Do they run the same compositions that they feel that consistency bring from Stormpoint into World's Edge? Or are they going to mix things up where they could risk taking away from that consistency, but where they feel more comfortable instead?
This is actually really interesting because for those who know how this ends, if you just backtrack into July, we see the finals, the playoff, the championship. It's decided sometimes on the map that you end up playing when you get to match point, because we're swapping, at least we did last year, 2 on, 2 off for World's Edge and Stormpoint. A team like Alliance, they stand out to me, guys. Like, that seems like a World's Edge team. They come alive on the traditional Apex Legends competitive map. But is this more of a weakness that is something that they're carrying into their game? You're going to have to be able to do it on any certain day, any given map. And I think, John, we're going to notice some teams definitely fall off, and maybe some teams like Alliance, Gaming Gladiators start to have their moment.
Yeah, that's a good point. But Alliance dropping Thermal Station, that's home. That's a map. They've been playing World's Edge now for 3 years, ever since ALGS online tournaments started. Gaming Gladiator, same story, dropping what used to be Sorting Factory and now Lava Siphon. So I completely agree with you. One thing that's really interesting is a bit of a toss-up for me is Kansas City Pioneers obviously had a really, really great Stormpoint, but they're no longer dropping at their home, which is Fragment East. They changed their drop spot here in World's Edge coming into this season. Wow. Obviously, the Ninja kind of loot nerfs to Fragment East, nerfed it a little bit, made it less viable. So I'm excited to see how KCP will transition to their new drop spot here in World's Edge, which was at the Rewired Fest Trials and Skyhook. Interested to see what it is in this lobby.
Well, it's going to be great. I want to get your thoughts on that, Vicky, but I got to get out of here because the game's about to start. Game 4 underway in our first day of ALGS Esports. Take it away, guys.
Yeah. That's not
Thanks
wasting
so
any
much,
more time, Rain. I love it. I love it. Yeah, John, I'm really excited to see how this plays out because now looking at World's Edge, we talked about it a lot, talked about some of the different POIs that we're going to see from our different drop spots for our squads. How is that going to work out in favor for where these circles are going to be pulling? We saw how detrimental it was on Stormpoint for a lot of these squads to take their dubs like E6 when it moved over to North Wall, or rather North Pad. So now we're going to be able to see where this circle is going to be taking us in World's Edge.
That's right. I'm taking a look at the drop spots right here, right now. Quite a split drop from KCP. Dropping Landslide, but dropping each in a different mountain of Landslide as the kind of tri-mountain section here, with Nasky dropping south, Dell dropping east, and Strafey dropping in the north Landslide location. So that's the new POI for KCP. I mentioned Trials and Skyhook, but that was in the Rewired lobby that they were able to really bully. We have E6 and Phoenix Legacy in Skyhook. They'll split that loot and get quite a bit of loot to boot. Meanwhile, Vex dropping at the NRG special in staging. Lava Fissure is going to be the Forge squad right above them. And of course, Gaiman Gladiators will split with IG over in Lava Siphon, which they've been doing for a few years as well. So those are some of the notable drops and notable things to keep a close eye on here in this early game. Vic, any other thoughts on this zone?
I mean, looking at where the zone's going to be pulling over to the left side, I'm looking at Vex kind of situated in staging and doing that split land where you can see Unlucky not only having control over the geyser loot, but also the opportunity to get Beacon. Having that Beacon over to the left side is going to be highly contested from what I'm expecting for the squads that like to play the edge of the circle like we saw a lot on Stormpoint. Looking like Alliance, you know, being one of those squads that take their time to slow rotate in. Pioneers, as we take a look at how they've been doing so far, I mean, they're leading the way in our overall lobby, not not too far off from Echo Esports, who are just 8 points away from KCP. But Pioneers do land in landslide like you were talking about before, and they do have the crypto out that's been working out amazingly here for the Pioneers. But changing up this comp a little bit for themselves, I'm wondering what they've got up their sleeves here with Nasky taking control over the crypto. That's a lot of the information where Nasky's going to try to take advantage of before making the shots on where they want to rotate and where they want to be in that final circle.
Yeah, and by the way, keep in mind, it was crypto that worked so well for them when they won themselves a championship back in the summer circuit. That was the old comp, and well, guess what? They're making it work in the new meta as well. Like what we're seeing so far, if we can actually just do a quick scan through of just a variety of top teams here and see what their team compositions are, it would be great to kind of establish what does the meta look like on World's Edge here. Obviously, it's a whole new meta, it's a whole new ball game in season 3 or year 3 of the ALGS, and that's what the most exciting thing is. The meta's changed so significantly since champs just 3-4 months ago, Vicky.
Yeah, I like how you highlighted that, because with the different compositions from map to map that we've seen from a lot of our different teams, I've asked, questions to some of our players wondering what their preferences are, and we always get different answers, whether they feel comfortable rocking the same composition. As we got that game audio for you guys at home and Pioneers looking to make their next move. But remember that beacon that I was mentioning before? That's to the south, or rather north of Thermal Station, south of Lava Fisher. It's already going to get contested by the Pioneers, because with the crypto, it's not about calling out where these spots are available for you with the drone, but it's also being able to scan the beacon without over contesting and overextending, as Horizon in an early fight themselves over at Fragment.
That's right. This is also the Fragment East versus Fragment West fight we expected. Horizon. And it's actually going to be Light and Locky right above them dropping in Survey Camp that are going to rotate south. And here comes some of these northern fights that you typically see on rotation. Horizon, the team, versus Horizon, the player. Controller player from the UK. It looks like these two teams are not going to like what they see. They're going to opt not to fight for now, but keep in mind, they'll be rotating in parallel. A couple more teams in the area. I'm interested to see who's going to survive, who will make it through, because I don't think every team will survive this rotate.
Meanwhile, Naya's out here knocking a Fricks, going to be able to get the dirty as well, so it's already one member out, leaving a squad to just play this as a duo, as Horizon are going to be able to take the high ground right here over this team. Nice position for them. This is a good spot for them to not only hold when it comes to the high ground, but to also negate any sort of third party that's going to be hurtling in their direction. They're onto it, though, with the quick rotation. You could already see they're rotating towards landslide. And I like this call here from Horizon, because you could expect other teams already making their way through landslide. And if they're not already in landslide, they're definitely making the rotation away from Countdown there already. You can already see with some of this early fighting, it's high peak. Remember, we saw them get knocked originally. Looks like Bavis is still alive, and looks like it was Korpa that was in a lot of trouble. Here comes a third party, though, from right behind High Peak, as Bavis won't be able to get away in time. Trying to run for their lives. Managed to slide for some sort of safety, but literally has 1 HP.
The bunny
he's dancing.
Movement from Bavis. What's up? Goodbye. See you later. It was cool while it lasted, Looked pretty nice, dipping and dodging, avoiding some shots, but ultimately Heroes comes out with the kills. And here's what's interesting, Vicky. This southeast side of the map here towards launch site, you have Heroes dropping in Lava City. You have Jules in Game of Drones dropping Big Mod, and then you have High Point dropping Dome, which is usually an uncontested or undropped POI because the loot isn't great and it's on the far side of the map. That's basically all of Flavor of the Month, now FUT Esports, and Optic Gaming in North America's drop spot. They get all 3 of those POIs to themselves. The fact that 3 teams are splitting that, it's going to be really difficult going for those 3 teams. Expect a lot of contention, expect a lot of early game fights.
You kidding me? This fight is still going on. This is still LFO Forever versus Horizon, and Horizon is still trying to take some shots at LFO, but I think another team is also taking shots at LFO, because there's another squad off to the left side of Fragment that are trying to ping them down while they're traversing through the train tracks, and Horizon are just holding this choke point. Nice to note, though, while they are making some of this noise, that squads that are exiting Harvester are going to hear them. KCP in the choke point after they made their rotation off of the beacon that's on the high ground north of Thermal Station, now towards that choke point in Thermal Station. It's Vex Gaming meeting them on the other side. It's a fight for the beacon and the information that was necessary to know which real estate to take up when it comes to these Thermal Station circles, because it can be so detrimental to holding the real estate in some of the limited houses that are available here.
Yeah, and this is an interesting rotate from Vexed. They are going to go all the way towards the south side of the map. and they came from staging, but obviously finding themselves against the Kansas City Pioneers. A lot of teams are expecting a south pole, but the zone's pulling a little more central. So as I say that, Dell's going to take quite a bit of damage. This is what I mentioned. Look at KCP, and look how well they stay on a leash to another. They wolfpack together, and again, despite Dell taking the first damage, he is actually still going to find himself an opportunity to win this fight. Vexed, all up to Tyler FPS, but no, some way, somehow, Tyler and Unlucky win the fight against KCP, eliminating the 3, and just as you know it, Vicky, it's anyone's game. KCP in first place, eliminated.
The PK, I love it. Unlucky still getting that knock before he gets taken down from the trade. Tyler, clean up on aisle 3 as he takes care of the rest with Vex Gaming. Now they're going to be able to get Matafi right back in this lobby with the beacon being right there. They got to do this quick though, because I am expecting more squads leaving Staging and Harvester to make their way already into Thermal Station, or even rotating through Tree, because sometimes you see that beacon that's south of Thermal Station as well. As we can see, Horizon have not left Fragment. They are still here. It looks like they wanted as much to loot as they possibly can, squeezing what is little left for Fragment.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we saw them hit the zip line and start heading towards the choke point of the tunnel over towards Landslide, but they must have seen something or found an opportunity to take a fight and double backed. So they'll be playing Edge, and this is what I mentioned when Rainday asked, we're going to see a lot of Seer, a lot of Horizon, a lot of Valkyrie. That's kind of what we call default comp. Very similar to what we saw as the default comp of Gibraltar, Valkyrie, and Wraith back in the day. We're seeing as now Horizon, Valkyrie, and Seer. That is our kind of default composition that majority of teams are going to be running, with a few teams running off meta, like we see Crypto and Watson in the hands of Kansas City Pioneers and others. But expect this team comp all day long, and especially when we go to North America, vast majority of teams will be running this team comp as well.
That's why it's so important to highlight how unorthodox the APAC compositions were, because there were barely, if anything, no Horizon in sight. So it's nice to be able to see that mix up between different regions, as the Horizon obviously makes a very prevalent appearance in World's Edge. Getting onto the high ground and even having to force a lot of these teams to vertically adjust their crosshairs could be so difficult here, as Horizon are going to see a squad already in Harvester. Ooh, nice beamage with the G7, and with my favorite scope too, the 2x4. No other attachments attached to that G7 for Mimu, but with some of those pings, they are making some noise, and there are already squads like Navi who are in the middle of this rotation. They see the fighting, but they don't want to fully engage just yet, because they don't want to get circle kept for that next circle.
This thing slow down here a bit, Vicky. I'll ask you, am I a weirdo for preferring the 3-cog over the 2x4? Does that make me a lunatic?
No. Right. I feel like that,
Cool.
I feel like I'm the weirdo if anything. The 2x4 could be very, particular. I do really like it a lot.
Indeed.
The 3 times, a particular favorite for a lot of players. I also really like the R301, obviously. 3 times and the 2x scope being so good on that weapon. I was actually wondering here, with Navi taking a slower approach, if we may see a Skyward dive, but it looks like they are just going to try to fully send it while taking their time to ease their way into that next circle. They heard the cease of fire, so they're looking to the left to make sure that they're not going to get in a sandwich position with the squad in Harvester, and of course the squad that we just saw right now with Horizon rotating to the left side, maybe taking a longer approach through Lava Siphon.
Yep, so we're still seeing Newcastle and Watson, the taser combo, the big combo on display here on World's Edge. We said we'd still see a few teams rocking it, and just less than last time. Meanwhile, we'd see Game of Drones rocking that Crypto, and they forever will have to play Crypto as long as their team name is Game of Drones. Here comes a little Valkyrie poke, and they'll get the respawn, but it's going to be tight for them. Oh my gosh, he got the cancel with a split second left. That is tragic.
I sat on the edge of my seat right there because I thought that Arcstar was going to stick him. It was so close because he got the res. Well, he almost got the res immediately before he had to get the cancel. Like you said before, they didn't get to fully pull off even though it was right there. And Tori unfortunately gets taken down. This just leaves up to Rondon to be able to get this res. Is anybody going to contest this? It doesn't look like they are, despite the amount of Seers that we have in this lobby. No tactical going to stop that, as Hoodie also gets taken down. It's Vita's Legacy fighting for the real estate on the high ground on top of the train tracks here. Horizon looking a lot better in terms of loot and already getting 2 knocks onto Phoenix Legacy.
Yeah, it's going to be a full squad wipe here momentarily. Last and third member going to get taken out. And Horizon showing some good life here. They need a big game, need a big performance. Relatively quiet showing for them. And again, the Seer Q is just griefing people right now with a half-second left to get the res. It's going to be the other Horizon. Again, the player Horizon, controller Demon, who ends up winning that third-party fight. LFO forever eliminate the likes of Horizon and say, hey, lose the team name. It's my gamer tag, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it can be a little tricky sometimes to take note of it, but LFO
Plus the
forever,
character
a Polish squad.
horizon.
Right, oh,
Yeah, so many
so
horizons.
true. So we got horizons all around in our lobby. It's just juggling right through it like we're in a circus. But LFO forever, looking like they're in a really good spot here on this high ground, but they do have to start moving soon. With a minute and 30 seconds on the clock, they're not in that next circle, and even if they were to take the skyward dive, it could be tricky because you won't be able to get past that big rock formation to your left, and you have to decide whether you want to wrap around the mountain in the line of sight of all these other squads fighting in Harvester, or if you want to take a slower approach behind you if you want to take some circle damage in tree, which may not be the best position because I could expect already a squad to be holding on to that southern building by thermal station, by where the train tracks are that lead into tunnel. There's probably already a squad situated there.
Yeah, Ray said it well. Alliance is the team that will benefit for the move to World's Edge, and you saw it in the kill feed. They take out Bitfix Gaming. 3 kill points for Alliance. And again, they drop thermal station. So it's a pretty favorable first zone for them. Not a really tough or far rotate, but still gives them the chance to play edge. And as I say that, Caster's Curse in full force here. Vexed eliminates Alliance. So with Mandy in their debut, not the best start for Alliance. Meanwhile, the 3 Muppets, the team that started strong and made such a great story. Here comes a big fight against the Turkish Stars. They're going to get the res. He's going to stick it, but it's not going to work out well for them.
It took them too long because at the same time the Seer Tactical canceled it. Here go the PK shots over to the side. The 3 Muppets are looking to come out on top. Turkish Stars get eliminated, and the 3 Muppets now need to back up. Here comes a third party. The Art Stars getting flung in their direction. Strongest unfortunately gets taken down. Kubra is able to pop the shield bat. He's got the nice big mod R301, and he doesn't want to give it to the enemy. He's forced to back away, and it's Horizon, the player like we were talking about before from LFO, making their way not only from the high ground of the train tracks, but now looking at third party as only Kumbra is left from 3 Muppets.
Yeah, we knew LFO was going to be one of the most aggressive teams in this lobby. Ranked grinders known to play super fast-paced, and it's showing right now. But what the 3 Muppets just did in a 3v3 against the Turkish Stars that they had no business winning was insane. They get the res, and whoever got res, I think it may have been Plom or Kumbra, had 5 HP, I think was able to get a shield swap, but still, they had a complete disadvantage. The use of the PK to turn fights around, we saw Vex do it against KCP earlier, and we saw 3 Muppets do it right there, has been insane. Take note, aspiring Apex players, gold, platinum, bronze players, the Peacekeeper in close range fights when you're at disadvantage can completely turn the tide. Obviously now Mastiff back on the floor as well. We're going to see that in a few weeks when we are on the latest patch. Keep in mind, for those that are just tuning in, this is the patch previous to this one, because we want to give these pro players a time to practice the new legend, to practice the new tuning of various weapons. So we're still playing on the outdated patch from previous.
Yeah, it's all about that consistency to allow our players to get used to the Pro League here too. Day number 1 and still very highly competitive in our overall leaderboards with so many of these teams so close together already. Now you can see Vex in a very good position onto the high ground just north of Thermal Station. This is a good 50-50 position to hold here too, because even if the circle pulls away from them, they could just wrap around the mountain instead, so that way they don't get circle kept. But you could see a Watson squad meeting them on the other side. Jay Savage and company here with Vex Gaming just looking beyond, not trying to overextend, because there is another squad on the other side of that team.
Vex Gaming, we haven't tuned into them in a while, and they haven't moved a far distance from when we saw them take out the Kansas City Pioneers. They've been content with the KP that they already have and just trying to make it to late game. And they are going to do a really good job basically being big, watching their backs to make sure they don't get flanked, but they pretty much have the entirety of this southern zone where the zone's going to pull. That is huge, but Forge is encroaching on their territory. Looks like they're trying to get some long-range poke in, but will decide not to fight this necessarily. So these two teams will coexist, but they're not going to be friendly neighbors here. As you know, this fight will eventually ensue as the zone is going to shrink.
So the one team right now that could contest Forge and force them out of their own space is the squad that's right behind them. So you could see with Jay Savage just keeping his eyes right there on Vex. It's going to be important because Vex may want to force that real estate from out of their feet. You see the Watson fences, though, just taking up so much space. Looking like a painting out here, just painting the rest of this map with these Watson fences. As well as Gaiman. You see Hardeki, Leogri on the other side, also taking control over the mouth of that cave that leads into those train tracks. Circle closing in now with Ascend also taking up the real estate right below them. Also not looking to get too overly aggressive here, because since they are on the low ground, they'll be opening up themselves to a lot of these teams that are now flying in, like Navi on the Skyward Dive.
Yeah, so Gaiman's going to be playing Gatekeeper right now to LFO, who are right behind them. I'm interested to see what team comp Guyman is rocking. Again, I was a little critical. I don't think the Newcastle and Watson team comp fits their playstyle very well, but I wonder if they're still rocking that same team comp here on World's Edge. We'll find out here in a moment. We do see some Watson in the hands of Forge alongside Valkyrie and Seer. The Guyman Gladiators and E6 are both going to gatekeep. Horizon is going to get taken out. Lufka gets knocked as well. So a little bit of fighting going on the northeastern side of this final circle.
Very interested to see how that's working out with the circle now. Pulling over to the side. Forge knows that they're going to have to start moving soon. As you can see, Vex Gaming still putting on the extra pressure. Jay Savage falling incredibly low. Because they've been taking their time holding this choke point, though, they don't have the boosted Evo shields that they want to work with here. Still rocking 2 blue Evos. That's going to allow the green light for this squad from Vex to actually fully push in because they're looking better when it comes to the overall health as LFO get taken out by Ascend.
Yeah, Jay Savage using a Hemlock. You don't see a lot of Hemlock in late games. It might be what he just kind of was left with, but he's going to get out DPS'd. That's going to force him to back out, and Vex is just having their way right now with Forge in this push. Good use of clearing fences, and Vex will now find their rotate on edge to be fairly easier than it was previously as they bully Forge completely out of this positioning. Find themselves a shield swap and get themselves a kill. Digi gets taken down. GG entered the fight. Guyman Gladiators looking to make some noise here in World's Edge. Again, another team that we said is going to benefit from the map switch.
These grenades are insane as well from E6. K-Swinny getting that knock onto Sanya here. Vex Gaming with the wingman shots. The wingus dingus gets its way on each head of GG. It's Guyman Gladiators that get taken out. They're so fixated on the fight happening in front of them. It's Vex Gaming now making their appearance to clean things up.
That's right. Vexed is dominating right now. Navi eliminated. Guyman Gladiators eliminated. Vexed is running through the entire lobby right now, looking much like KCP in game number 3. But here on World's Edge, can Vexed close it out, much like their peers did just 1 game ago? And their debut under the Vexed org, the worst kept secret in Apex Legends, by the way, that this team was getting signed by Vexed. Sorry for maybe slightly contributing to that leakage, my Vexed friends. But this Bosch squad turned Vexed is looking great here in game number 4.
And they need it. They need to have this amazing pop-off game right now here, too, because they also have the positional advantage compared to the other teams left in this lobby. 4 squads left. We know that it's Vex Gaming, E6, Ascend, wondering who that last straggler is, as they're going to continuously harass those last 2 players. Oh, no, it's Forge, the remainder of Forge, that won't be able to survive for very long. They do manage to heal up, but if they reveal themselves too much here, Vex Gaming still have the positional advantage, but again, it's the KP that they really wanted, and it looks like they are able to obtain it. Vex Gaming, look at this, 14 total kills so far, 3 squads left in this lobby. That just leaves Vex, E6, and Ascend officially.
Yeah, you said it well. What's left of Forge is really what was remaining there. And I want to see Forge play a little more aggressive here. 2 games in a row now, we've seen them kind of run with their tails between their legs in these fights. You got to sometimes just, find some guts and take that 3v3 fight when they had it. They had a clean 3v3 against Vexed at the choke. They could be in Vexed's position right now if they're able to win that fight. But again, it just goes to show Vexed's firepower is too strong. And speaking of firepower, we know Element 6, former 69 IQ roster, so incredibly skilled and talented in these fights, these 3v3s. We have E6, we have Ascend, and we have Vex, 3 of the most reputable orgs that we have in EU left in this lobby. 3 very, very good teams at 3v3 or 3v3v3 fights. It's going to be a crazy finish here in this one.
It's also really nice to note that E6 is still rocking the Lifeline follow-up. This is great because they can make that makeshift cover with the Lifeline care packages, with the Replicator being right behind Vex. The circle closing in, they won't have access to it as easily now, wondering if it's just on the outskirts of the circle. But this is a game, once again, that Vex absolutely needs, because before this game, they were overall sitting in 9th place right behind Forge. So having a high KP game and a dub will skyrocket them in the overall leaderboards. They're going to be able to hold onto this balcony real quick. Oh, you see Tyler trying to be a little cheeky with that gravity lift, though. Who is he gonna elevate? Is he gonna give the alley-oop? Huge grenade as well, and a follow from the G7. Vex cannot push this, though, or else it's gonna be a green light for Ascent to also push in.
Matafi gets another knock. 2 members of E6 down. I think I saw Slayers as one of them. That's gonna be the lifeline here. So all up to K-Swinny, the last alive on this team, the crypto of this team. Vexed Gaming is continuing their running rampage. Can they get the res is the question. Crypto Drone's going to come out and try and just buy them some time, do some damage. But no, he's going to be forced to drop. Here comes Vex coming from high ground here. traversing the Swiss Alps right now is Vexed, as they will find themselves a knock on post kill. They get the final kill on E6. They get the final knock on Ascend, and Vexed is going to do it here. A 3v2 to close this one out. They need to get these final knocks. Yes, they do. Vexed Gaming is your champion here on World's Edge. A huge game from them.
And so cleanly, too. They didn't even need to destroy those Watson fences. You see all those EVA 8 shots booming its way right through the rest of Ascent. What a beautiful performance from Vex. Not only did they get so much KP in the process, but they cleaned up E6, and then at the end, they cleaned up Ascent Rain Day. What a first game that we just had on World's Edge for Vex Gaming.
And it felt like things had shifted chemically for these rosters. It's like something snapped. I don't know what it was. I know a lot of people playing card games like that right now. For me, it was much more like the Thanos snap, where a few teams we expected and had been up in that situation totally out of the picture. We saw Vex take almost like a control of this game for the first time since we've witnessed their potential. Now they've actually reached it, John. And you had called this out earlier. You had your eye on Vex. You might have done more in terms of their roster announcement, but at the end of the day, you were calling it that they were going to be making big waves here, and they certainly did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I predicted them to do well and have a big game, just one game too early. I'm basically the Nostradamus of Apex Legends. I was foreshadowing what was to come. A huge game from Vex. I mean, look, this is a team that is so talented. As soon as I saw this roster get announced as team form, it almost felt like, you know, you mentioned Thanos, the Avengers were forming in so many ways. You have Unlucky from Austria, so incredibly talented on controller. Tyler FPS, I was a massive fan of Tyler and his rookie breakout year with new esports, the now Ascend squad playing alongside the Portuguese. Since then, he's had a little of a roller coaster of an Apex career, but you always knew he was on the on the brink of greatness. And then, of course, last but not least, Matafe has been playing and competing at a high level since the beginning of competitive Apex. Took a break, decided to pursue content creation and streaming, but he missed competing in Apex, and it's good to have him back alongside this Vexed roster. I mean, they are so talented. It showed right there in game number 4.
Yeah. And as we go through highlights, Vicky, I mean, Vex, they started off strong, but Ascend, they were also in the mix in that final circle. You also saw Element 6 as well. Kind of walk me through your narrative for how Game 4 turned on our first time to see World's Edge.
Well, the thing is, Vex was out here really popping off originally in terms of their positioning. They had the high ground the entire time, but they also were able to stay on the other side of that rock wall that's north of Thermal for a while. They were kind of in the bridge, and it was the decision where they needed to take that 50-50, whether they wanted to wrap around, meet up with Gaiman Gaming on the other side of that tunnel, or it was dealing with Forge that was holding that choke point, which was an easier situation for them because they already noted by doing enough damage that they still had blue Evo shields. They were still playing patiently, like Fallout had mentioned before, because they played patiently the game before that. So that was a green light for them to fully send it and then take control over the best position that you could hold for a final circle like that. And they did so by cleaning up so much KP in the process.
Yeah, it was just high ground off of higher ground, off of more clinical finishing, and Vex Gaming is certainly doing it. I love Tyler FPS in this role too, because I think just what a fragger, what an incredible player. We talk about a lot of these names that get that conversation of you're going to win a 1v1 against anybody but them. You know, but I think Tyler FPS is in that category in terms of just raw skill, John, and being able to take on fights and come out successfully.
Yeah, completely agreed. I mean, I mentioned him being on the new esports or Ascend squad, and it almost felt like a square peg in a round hole because Tyler was so aggressive, constantly wanting to fight. They were playing a caustic kind of bunker team composition back then. So Ascend is more methodical. They like to play rotate. They like to play smart. You had to just unleash the beast in Tyler, and Tyler is able to fully unleash, be his true, raw, authentic self, which is a pure slayer. And it showed a matched back-to-back 19-kill game, which beats the record of all of last Pro League, by the way, twice. 17 kills was the record we had last Pro League season. 19 kills, 2 games in a row from KCP and Vex.
Vicky, what a game! What a game from Vex. There's not much to say about that one.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the fact that they got 19 KP, looking on the other side of the page, look at the differentiation between some of the squads that were able to at least get some KP, but not the placements that they wanted. Heroes being in that 11th place spot, managing to secure themselves 2 of those placement points, but only 1 KP in the process. I feel like a lot of the chaos that we saw go down in that game 4 did happen between a Harvester, exiting out of Harvester, and then figuring out whether these teams wanted to go through staging or if they wanted to wrap around towards Thermal Station. So a lot of these squads were gatekept by the likes of Gaiman and the other teams that were holding that southern part of that next circle.
And looking at it too, we see, just to mention as we head to the standings, Game of Drones, we see Echo Esports teams that have actually been at the top winning games here, they're actually now in the bottom 10, not getting much points. Will that be a World's Edge story? Will it just be a Game 4 story? We'll find out. But as we set up our standings to let you know what our last 2 games will bring us into, it's the Pioneers narrowly leading with 5 points ahead of Element 6, Vex Gaming, Echo Esports there, Ascend right afterwards, and then Game of Drones, Not as Sincere, 3 Muppets. They're kind of hinging off of their performances earlier. But World's Edge has given us some really nice drama. And I find, too, that Ascend is a team that I always like to mention because of, I wouldn't say drama, but I would say some people's reaction to their Split 1 playoffs win online just almost a few months and a year ago, because they were the ones who took it after that 11-game, 12-game match point. Alliance had been on match point for a long time. Gaming Gladiators had been on match point for a long time. Then Ascend win. Are we not putting enough love on Ascend's name in this tournament? Because I think they're a team that is always in the mix, John.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, look, Ascend is a squad that I think surprised all of us last year. Like you said, almost a year ago, Split 1 playoffs, winning and proving that they were the best team in EU at the time. Since then, I was really high on them. I had a lot of stock on Ascend. I think a disappointing relative showing for them at ALGS Champs. They were playing with a substitute, though, so it's really been hard to say. They've been relatively quiet for the last year. A couple roster changes as well. They've kind of fallen out of the conversation, but I agree. You got to put respect on this team's name, simply. I mean, Vicky, we waved the Portuguese flag for them on broadcast because we, of course, have a lot of love for the entire Portuguese Apex community, but this is a team that is a top 5 team in EU and is showing so right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, our squad hailing from Portugal, they're still top 5 in the overall leaderboards, and they still are consistently finding themselves killing a lot of these other teammates. So now being able to sit in that top 5 spot, I think what their focus has been, like we saw at the end game, has been to situate themselves out of the fray where they don't get sandwiched, but they do deny themselves more KP when they do that. They want to play for safety, but what does it come down to when it comes to those last fights? Are they warmed up enough by the end of the game to be able to clean that up, or are they going to stay behind more likely with the other teams?
Well, guess what, guys? We've got 2 more games to determine a winner. So far, we have had different winners each game, and it's Vex who are recent champions. Can they keep it up in Game 5? Will we see another one in World's Edge? We'll find out. Let's go to John and Vicky as we head into our final 2 games of the day.
Thank you so much, Rain Day. Much appreciated as always. Breaking down all the action in between games. The host with the most, my boy Rain Day. We're jumping into game number 5. Vicky, we got 2 more games to go. We got a leaderboards and a standing. Forge in 9th with 21. We see, Ascend in 5th with 32. If you see another 31-point game like we've seen the last 2 games, at this point, it's really anyone's first Pro League kickoff and debut here.
Yeah, it's scary to see that, the big gap, quote unquote, if you want to call it that, between Pioneers, who are sitting in first, and E6 right behind them is a 5-point gap. E6 have 45 points, Pioneers have 50 points, and then right behind E6, Vex are 1 point away from E6 with 44 points. So this overall lobby, these top 4 squads alone are just so close together in overall points. Between Echo Esports and Ascend, with being in that 5th place spot, it's a 10-point difference. So you know how game number 5 always work with me, Fallout. This is always my favorite game when it comes to our overall series over the course of the ALGS for our regions, because game number 5 determines how these teams need to be playing. Are they going to frag out? Are they going to put themselves in riskier positions? Looking at where the circle is going to be pulling to the south, I'm looking at Pioneers, E6, Vex Gaming, and Echo Esports to take a much more passive-aggressive approach where they can get the KP necessary, but don't want to put themselves in a risky position where they're the first to drop.
Well, a little bit of consistency here. We're going to see a very similar zone to what we saw last game, so we'll see if teams like Alliance and others that got taken out early will learn from their mistakes. And take a look at the bottom right of your screen here. You see Heroes and Torge and Co. on Game of Drones finding themselves in an early fight. That's what I mentioned. Big Mod, Lava City, having a run really with their tail between their leg all the way to Geyser. That's way too little loot and small of a POI for 3 teams to be dropping in, and as a result, Heroes is going to bully them out of Big Mod. They're going to get all that loot to themselves, and Torge will be left to run away last remaining player. Meanwhile, on the north side of the map, in Climatizer, we see Zuni tagged up a bit against Navi. A couple of teams dropping up in Climatizer and contesting as well. Those are really all of our contests, though, that we'll see so far.
It's nice to know how some of those 50-50s could be very risky, especially when it comes to these Game 5 situations. You can see Echo Esports, looking great when it comes to the loot already. You can see some shots getting taken from Echo Esports. We see the movement real quick here, too, from Harold, as he is going to be able to rotate as quickly as he possibly can. So you know how it goes, Harold. You know, we highlighted some of the individual members on Echo Esports, but coming from, I believe, underrated here, Harold is already going to be able to make these quick rotations, because look who's meeting them to the north. It's got to be LFO, who want to take some chunks out of their Evo shield.
That is right. LFO nearby. They drop Epicenter and Survey Camp, split that loot, and guess what? They hear some fights. They saw that they were that the Echo squad was going to be damaged quite a bit, and they want to capitalize here. Seer ult's already going to come through. Ultimate Accelerant probably popped. The Thermite's going to connect and tick away, and LFO has a great opportunity to win this fight early on, but they got to be careful because we know Na'Vi is nearby.
Yeah, Na'Vi landing on the other side of Climatizer. That was the original squad that was taking some shots at Echo, as LFO are looking to continue on this domination. Heroes also, by the way, already getting an early knock themselves. A lot of early fighting happening as they get Bardo. They get the knock first. Now it's the initiation right here for LFO. But Ascend, or rather, sorry, Na'Vi on the other side is still taking shots at them, but they're pretty distant away. So with that knowledge, now LFO are going to be able to fully send it onto the squad.
Yeah, they gotta be careful in full sending. They need shield swaps, they need them quick, because Na'Vi can third party this, and this could be dangerous. Light's gonna go down. Is Na'Vi close enough to push? No, and this is interesting. I mean, CIS was always known originally to be the most aggressive sub-region of Europe. They played so fast. You saw the likes of Artico and the Gaiman Gladiator squad flying at people on Wraith, but this is a good example of just a different playstyle from CIS. Na'Vi 2 years ago would have flown at that fight and would have easily capitalized on the freest 2 kill points or 3 kill points ever. Instead, LFO is able to reset. Locky takes high ground and is doing a good job just kind of scouting out the competition, making sure they're not getting pushed. By the way, ranked players take note. You always want to make sure someone's kind of watching as everyone else is looting so you don't get third partied. There's ways to prevent RNG in Apex, but right now it's going to be LFO that's going to be able to reset. Vex now find themselves in a rotate, bullying Forge yet again.
Yeah, Forge actually just taking off. Vex says, all right, you get to live another day. No worries. We'll take a longer rotate off to the other side, because they are looking great in terms of loot. You could see this right now with the Skull Piercer. You could see right now Vex Gaming are just looking to make their next plan.
That's right. Well, guess what, Vicky? I got some good news. I'm here to report that we got our first listen-in of the ALGS Year 3 Pro League, baby. And who are we going to listen into than none other than the hypey Vexed Gaming squad. Let's jump into a listen-in with Vex Gaming.
Yeah, I got 2 Arcsers, no termites. Guy there, Gibby. Let's just swing right. They're not looking right now. They should be ossified.
I'm running.
Yeah, just swing right, just follow my path.
Yeah. Let's go.
I'm removing my pins.
Forget that.
Energy on the right, Andrew.
They're shooting someone else, this is perfect. Come, don't loot right now.
It's on the way.
Get roof away and chill. I see no one.
I don't wanna fly right now, okay? We just climb.
Yeah, don't fly. Do not fly. They're not close. They're not even building, boys. They're just in the open.
Yeah.
They might
I got one lock, I think.
Go right side, maybe.
I don't see them. Where the fuck are they? I think they're on here.
Rivals.
Yeah, they're all here.
They're taking up zipline,
Yeah, not all of them though.
One guy's gonna take it late now.
Okay,
probably.
I think we... Wait, one drop,
They're dropping. But one's still up top.
Yeah, just look. Maybe we can knock on the guy below. One is close. Here. I think he's coming for the zipline.
Enemy here.
He's really close. Really close.
Out. Look out here.
Go for it.
He's left. I'm shooting the other 2. 45. Take the other guy. Kill the Gibby.
Lift the Gibby. Yeah, crack him.
I'm chasing with you, Andrew. I'm chasing
He's
with
here.
you.
I'm trying to scan. Can you kill him? I'm holding the other 2 for him.
One.
Pilot, 20 flash.
Okay, come back.
hear anything, I can't hear
No, wait.
I can't really do much for you. Come back. Come
Nice,
back.
Andrew.
Which one? I am.
I got it, bro. I got it. Nice, good shoot, bro.
Nice, well
One
played.
sec. Come back.
Yeah. Get the
watch me.
if you can.
Watch
Come
me.
out.
I did.
I watch.
We need to fall back and hold our back. Like E6 could become
Yeah,
behind us.
going back up now, going back up.
Well played. I go back towards countdown. Bro, I'm leaving your fucking banner. Stop shooting me before I hit you.
have to watch on right. Matav, can you watch above us?
I'm
Like,
gonna
this
queue
direction
up.
right now?
I'm kind of looking, but I can't see much. I think we need to get through this ASAP, because if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
res and they loot up, they might be behind us.
Yeah, come. Tele.
How many bets you have now, Unlucky? Did you get some?
I'm on 3 bets. I
Okay,
picked up 2.
I have one. I'm 1/6 right now.
I can give you one.
I'm
I'm on 5
212.
cells, yet not almost cells, I think.
What are you, sorry, Tele?
I'm 212. Okay, Alliance res. Alliance res.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me 2 cells and let's go. Come. We go.
I'm on 5 cells. I'm on 5
We go-
cells.
yeah.
I give.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Drop 4 then. I'll take 2. You take 2.
Yeah, this show
No,
from
I'm
height.
go-
That's Alliance. I'm waiting for you here.
They might mirror us, boys. They might mirror us. But we have some time before he gets.
He's still.
Wait,
he
one guy
has
just
no
got
loot,
flash
bro.
shot. Yeah,
He
one
has
guy
no
just got
loot.
flash shot. Let's go to side. Come. If there's a guy holding us in bridge, then it's max 1 team in the whole place. So it's good for us.
Alright,
I
look
see
up.
no one. See no one. Still no one.
He's all shooting in the
Someone's
east building.
playing
Up here.
building.
Someone's up here.
It's good. Just take this. We're still in connect zone.
Yeah?
We just hold this until zone closes and then we can pressure them.
Okay.
I'm gonna scan that back.
Challenge
Guys, we should hold from here to the back. Can someone hold it?
Yeah, I got it.
Like, I don't want them coming on our stairway. Yeah,
There you go, Andrew. You watch it.
Yeah, I'm
you
going,
watch
I'm going.
it.
I'm holding.
There's a nade here. Thermite and arc if you need.
Take
Yeah,
one
there's a
from right.
team. There's a team running up on the east platform, running like in. Like there's a Valkyrie on my ping.
Spotted a wee hooligan.
Yeah, walk there. He sees me.
Yeah, he knows. He knows.
Did they leave that? Did they leave that? If they left that, they left it, yeah. There's
I
no,
think they
it's
did.
on
I think
anyway.
they did.
It's on anyway. This way.
There you have it. First listening with Vex Gaming, and it's a great one, Vicky. You saw it. We jumped in at the perfect moment. You saw them find an opportunity to capitalize on Mandy, aka Alliance, with a first pick. You heard what makes this team so great in a lot of ways. Their comms on point, plus some threats for inting from Matafe and some BMing going on as well.
Sure. It's all about the tactical crouching and some of the BMs that comes in that makes everything fun here. As KCP may not be having the fun that they wanted to have, kind of bunkering down inside of this truck with some openings on each side of themselves, where you see IG on the other side. There's another squad shooting at them on the other side of that truck. That's why IG isn't trying to fully overextend right now, because holding this position isn't bad, but they are denying themselves the opportunity to build up those Evo shields. They're still on 2 whites and they're playing off the low ground. And when it comes to the next circle, they have the information from the beacon thanks to the crypto drone being able to get that scan without having to overextend. But they're in the middle where other squads leaving bid mod could take some chunks out of them.
So back on with Vexed here. It's going to be Neas, I believe, from France. Big fight. And one of our kind of dark horse teams you got to keep a close eye on, of Corpa. Looks like Matafe is going to be tagged up to just about 50 HP left. Here comes the fight. Tyler finds a way to get a couple shots, and Unlucky, the rookie, 17 years old, is going to break ice with a knock on Zerifer and stays alive, just barely immediately turns and gets 40 damage in for Tyler to finish the kill. The teamwork and the shots from Unlucky have been so good, but here comes the third party. They need to buy themselves some time with some grenades, and that's exactly what they're going to try to do. But Matafe and Tyler are going to have to let Unlucky go, as they will work their way back to their home base.
Oh, they have to back up here. There's still 17 other squads in this lobby right now. With them backing up, this is the green light for HP to get extra aggressive. It's High Peak. Losing out on Bobus, though, here with Vex also getting traded out. It could be a 2v1 situation, as High Peak now are looking to clean things up, and they finally finish off Matafe. That's going to be Vex Gaming getting taken out in 17th place in the overall lobby. High Peak is also still going to be able to get that res, and they also have the information for this next circle as well. So they're in this circle. They're going to want to get the beacon for the next circle closing in now, and they have enough loot to be able to get those shield swaps.
And the journey for Vexed will come to an end. We saw some great things from them in the early game, but again, 17th place, not going to get any placement points, just 1, 2, or 3 maybe kill points for them. So that opens things up. The number 2 team in the lobby eliminated. We'll have to keep a close eye on the Kansas City Pioneers. They find themselves center zone right now. Great rotation, great positioning from them overall, as KCP in first place with 50 points have an opportunity to extend that lead now with number 2 right behind them eliminated.
Yeah, KCP landing in landslide with the quick rotations to the Lava Siphon Southern building real quick. They're on the outskirts, though, and they're also in between Gaiman Gaming as well as IG. Now wondering E6 also coming in from the north side as well. A lot of these squads are actually playing on the outskirts of that northern side of the circle, which could be really insane for some of these teams to get the cleanup like E6, who are already situated inside this building.
Element 6 find themselves in second place now that Vexed has been eliminated. So we have our second and first place team alive. Our third place team out of this lobby. E6 in zone, still rocking Lifeline and Crypto. No change, map over map for them. Shaking up this meta with the only team running Lifeline, I think, ever that we've seen. I think we saw a team do it on accident in ALGS Champs. They picked the wrong legend, but never have we seen Lifeline as a legitimate part of a team composition here. Alliance was able to get the res on Mandy, and now they find themselves in a 3v3 against Ascend. Ascend's gonna full send. Here comes the fight. Kashera's gonna get knocked first. Swings wide left, but the damage has been done. Was it enough? Mandy with the Peacekeeper. Oh my god, post-kill with the connection. Gets the knock on Hockeys, and just like that, it's a 2v2.
Oh, the PK landing its beam. It's the Gadoosh coming in as Ascend need to back up real quick. Need to get that res onto Kashera. It's the Newcastle, so it's been super detrimental to have that deployable barrier at the ready, to have that tactical ready as well. Looks like they're on some scraps though. Only Lufka having shield cells. Doesn't look like they have the shield batteries necessary to be able to get that shield up to par as quickly as possible. But they do have that Watson ult to at least give them the passive to get those shields up passively here too. So Ascend taking their time, gonna just go in for a quick reset while E6 is playing off the low ground.
And both teams are gonna reset right there and not fight, but I think advantage and small win for Ascent. They won the battle, not the war. They get a little bit more positioning and own pretty much the entirety of this building now. So nice job from them. We'll keep a close eye on them as they continue in this game number 5, a crucial game number 5. Like you said, Vicky, I agree with you. It's my favorite game of a series because game 5 is kind of the devil's game. It's a game where you either find a way to stay relevant going into game 6 or you will fall behind and maybe choke. We'll see which teams will perform here when it matters the most to kick off Pro League, to get themselves a huge lead in the overall Pro League standings as we have 10 more weeks of Pro League action. 3 groups instead of 4 groups this time. I am so excited for the next few months of Apex going into our first LAN competition since Champs for the Split 1 playoffs.
It's so exciting. I mean, it's basically having Christmas available to you for all 10 weeks. At least to me, that's how much I get excited for it when it comes to the ALGS competition here. But like we saw, Echo Esports being one of the first squads to go down early when they were already sitting in the overall leaderboards on top 5 could be really good news for other squads like Game of Drones, Navi out here too, as Navi are playing off the high ground right now. You can see Rugby not giving up that real estate and also not allowing these crypto drones to get the free scan on the beacon. You're going to see it get destroyed as KCP are playing off the low ground, but it's very limited real estate when they're sharing this as well with Gaiman.
Yeah, Gaiman drop here. So it's a good game for them, just staying put, staying posted. We do see Navi running Newcastle Watson. So it's so interesting how sub-regions of Europe have their own metas, right? CIS has all been running the big comp of Watson and Newcastle. We know Gaiman has been running it as well. Meanwhile, Alliance nearby, and obviously with Alliance alive, 14 squads remain. It's anyone's game here, but I want to take a moment to talk about it. A big storyline for me, at least, coming into today's competition was, how's Alliance going to do? Without Vifes, with Mandy, obviously on paper, that's a huge, huge statement and roster change, but it's going to take time for Alliance to build the chemistry that they had with Vifes. Vifes is such an important player on this team, played such an important role, and we always talked about how under-respected or under-rated he was as a player and how much he contributes to the team, and it's really showing here.
I really like how you highlighted that because there's some players that just cannot be replaced out here, especially being an integral part of that team.
Yeah.
As you can see a lot of these other squads just... Yeah, I 100% agree on that. But with a lot of these other squads also making sure that they could readjust with the double tap. Ooh, make one for the books. Also, by the way, my sleep paralysis demon is out in the lobby, and it's going to be the Rampart with the Sheila getting a knock onto Hockey. So Alliance also in trouble as Ascend get taken out. Navi adding into the pressure with HP to clean up that team. Ascend unfortunately caught in the middle of that rotation. But this is why I was talking about Navi's positioning here, because although they're on the high ground here and they're here early, they had information and they took control of that beacon right from the get-go because like you mentioned, this is their POI, this is their drop spot, so they had this information very early in the game.
This double tap trigger is popping right now, and that's why the G7 Scout, it was so good last season on the last patch, which these teams are still playing on, by the way. That's why you can connect for 120 damage in a matter of seconds with the double tap if you hit both shots. The Kansas City Pioneers in first place, in good positioning as well. They have the entire awning or outskirts of this section here, and they will find themselves with Watson fences galore, with a pylon that's going to give them more shield. KCP well poised, well positioned, but still 13 squads remain.
Look at this positioning that KSB has to hold too, because they already know that Navi's right on top of them. They're not going to put themselves in their line of sight. Guyman's inside the building, so that's 3 squads already. E6, Lifeman's a lot of trouble though, but the Missile Storm going to get negated by the Watson ult here too. That's nice to note, as they drop just in time before they gets taken out, as well as them trying to go in for a reset, because they've been holding on the real estate of the building on the inside of that room for quite some time. Look at this. You see LFO playing off the low ground, IG not having the best time either, still rocking full blue Evos. This is 4 or 5 squads sharing this real estate, as Pioneers are looking to drop. They give up the high ground and they're looking to fully send it. They want this KP, but they put themselves in a very vulnerable position. They clean up LFO, and now it's right back to where it all started if they can get right back to the high ground, or E6 is going to do the same thing to them.
That's a big decision, and that's a great call, Vicky. Reason being, look at the top left of your screen. The zone's going to be pulling away. They're not in zones. So they say, hey, look, we're going to have to rotate anyways. We might as well get 3 kill points and rotate on low ground, where we have more cover to work with than as opposed to a team that was right across the other side of the wall there. So I love that decision from the Kansas City Pioneers to drop now again in a hard position with a tough rotate. We saw that in game 3. They found a way to find success. Can they do it again is the question here. Jumping aboard with Element 6, they find themselves in a fight here. Let's jump into a listening with Element 6 amidst a busy fight.
I'm dead. Nice. I'm popping the bat and then I'm gonna res.
Yeah, tap me.
I'm coming. I tapped him.
Yeah, what's with him?
Yeah, I'm going in. Dead.
Get in.
I'm just coming in.
I almost up. No drone yet. Leave. Can I res you?
Tap him?
Yeah, tap me. They might be pushing, Swinny.
Yeah, I'm imping.
Yeah, they're looking through. Come back in this corner. Come back in this corner.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm body blocking you.
We fight right now. Just buy time.
I head lava on the left.
We need to go on Swinny's side. We need to go on Swinny's side.
I'm coming.
We fine.
I'm
Just
popping the bat.
Reset the com.
Yeah. We can
Because
play
that
out the
fucking
back
six
if
shit, we don't need to scrim.
You need Alexa, Swinny? Can I peek down?
No, I'm imping.
Can I peek down here?
Look that guy here.
It's on height.
Where?
Okay.
On the height here.
One of them
Break that shit.
Yeah, break the wall.
Down cracked. Careful the back as well.
They dropped. They might be fighting inside.
No, they're playing inside for
Okay, there's 2 teams there and then 1 team's free to
we
play.
need to clear left. We need to clear left. Jag vill.
Okay. Yes.
I'm gonna hit me then.
Okay, I need to pop a bat. It's all you right now, Lip.
Let's go, Defin.
One's playing far right. I'm sliding
swinging
left.
left.
I need to bat. I'm out right now.
We're back into the action here. What a great listen in. Element 6, though, finds himself with K-Swinny, making Slayer's last alive here. Can he get a tap, as you heard him call it, on Leifen for a quick res? 4 squads remain. E6 has been popping off here, Vicky.
These comms are incredible. IG also fighting against Guyman on the high ground here too. HP in an amazing position to get themselves out of the fray. Can they get the res on their teammate right behind him? Rather, there was a knock that they were able to get. It's E6 just leaving Slayers inside of this trailer. Can't get in the middle between all of his chaos, because if Slayers gets out in the field, you already know that Hardecki's going to be able to clean him up. Now Hardecki gets taken out. That's going to be Guyman Gladiators out of this fight. High Peak still up and alive, and Element 6 just trying to get out of that line of sight. Just making some makeshift cover with the lifeline ult.
And he's going to get int right away. The int comes through, and E6 is out. Nice job by HP right there in that fight. 2 squads remain. IG, I believe, is one of them versus High Peak, the other. Invictus needed this game significantly. They were behind in the standings with their debut with Graceful and doing such a good job holding high ground right now. The Valkyrie Q going to come through and continue to poke, but Bavis does a good job keeping them at bay for now. Young Hong Kong is going to get knocked all up to the last 2 members, and Invictus Gaming is going to do it. They will be your champions for game number 5. A must-needed win.
That was such a good performance and positioning from IG, because they were playing off the low ground that entire game. Remember, they had blue evil shields until that second to last circle, and they still were able to clean up so many squads that were leaving Lava Siphon.
I mean, what a final, guys. And you could see 2 teams that desperately needed some points. Invictus Gaming started out in 11th, not even in the top 10. They pushed up to 31 points after that result. We don't know where that's going to place them. Certainly going to be great. Unfortunately for them, High Peak, I noticed they had 36 points at the end of the monstrosity of a game that they just had. So they'll actually be ahead of IG. They started out 16th place going into this game. I have to say, and John, you know, this is the start of it. this might be one of the more competitive final couple of games and final last game with anybody being able to take it that I've seen in our ALGS tournaments. It's almost anybody's game.
Yeah, I gotta agree, and that's what's pretty much the theme of EU, right? I mean, North America usually very, very top heavy. Don't get me wrong, the North American lobbies later are gonna be super competitive and absolutely stacked. But in EMEA, there's such a widespread distribution of points because it's not as top heavy. You don't have the NRGs, the Team Liquids, the Furias, the TSMs that dominate as the top 5, top 7 teams. There's really 10 to 15 to 20 teams in EMEA that can break into that top 5 as top teams, and that's why you see such a distribution of points right now. That's why you see such a competitive lobby, and going into game number 6, Vicky, it's anyone's game at this point.
I know, it's crazy to see the way that E6 still remains on top here, despite not taking that game at the very end, and the incredible shift in the overall leaderboards that we're gonna have with IG taking game number 5. It's so close between our top 5 squads alone. I mean, even the top 10 in general look really close, but specifically the top 5, that it's so hard to call what the outcome of this game 6 is gonna be for these teams.
Let's look at the highlights as well as we take a look back at game 5. We saw at the very end a few squads that we've been mentioning. Will they wake up on World's Edge? Gaming Gladiators, I believe they top forward in that situation. Again, who's familiar with Element 6, going to talk a little bit more specifically about them after the end of the highlights. But it was a raucous affair from start to finish. Dex Gaming, after their game 4 win, the high ground wouldn't prove too lucky for them anymore. They would get taken out in 16th place. That would leave Alliance and Corpa and the rest of these squads to go ahead and fight their way towards that final circle near Lava Siphon. Of course, at the end of the day, John, when you looked at it, it all led to this beautiful crescendo of that fight in that open field. Sin had a decent performance as well. It couldn't quite get the same thing done in that top 5 that maybe we had hoped for them to push on, having replaced top 3 in game 4. But it was still a game that had a lot of ups and downs, and I think crescendoed really nicely, John.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It was a fun game. Reminded me a lot of that game 3 we saw on Storm Point. Na'Vi you thought was going to be in a really good position. This is the KCP drop that worked out well for them. We didn't catch KCP as we had an awesome listening with E6. What happened to them on the rotate, but we knew it was going to be a really difficult rotate, and unfortunately, they couldn't find success. Here's where Na'Vi got taken out here. I was actually Na'Vi inside the trailer fighting against E6. What a brilliant fight this was against E6, though, Vicky.
Yeah, I really like the way that we were able to hear their comms too, just making sure that they were rotating between the reses so that way they weren't found vulnerable. And then we saw on the other side, it was High Peak that actually contested E6 from behind them because they had the natural cover of the rock form to their right. So they didn't even have to overextend, and then that was the green light for IG to also get involved in the fight. Amazing performance and patience from IG in general, just to not only take that game, but to make sure that they could get, what, 7 KP at the same time. As you can see the match 5 results. High Peak with 18 kills. We almost got 19 kills back to back. That would have been crazy if that was the case. I don't know, but it's been high and heavy fragging for a lot of these teams.
What is that, our 4th 18-19 kill game? Nobody is winning without winning in stunning fashion. What a start. Everyone came to play today. I don't know if they had their Wheaties. I don't know if they had 17 shots of espresso like me, but at the end of the day, we're getting some great gameplay. I'm super happy for it. And it almost
Something
leads me
to... Wheaties, not the espresso in Europe, though, right now.
Not the espresso? Okay. All right. Well, let's do a cool thing we're adding to our Apex Legends season of year 3. We're actually going to talk about some highlighted moments that maybe turned the tide. And this was the moment that I mentioned we'd get into. You mentioned, John, that it was pretty fun fight to see. Vicky, I want you to help walk us through this moment because the taps from the lifeline, getting into the trailer, it was all Element 6 putting on a masterclass here.
I tapped him.
Well, you could just hear from the comms alone, the way that they're playing around the lifeline. Obviously, you want to be able to get the res in a nice position where they're not going to get deleted and then finished off at the same time. But it's the rotation of suppressive fire that was super important there because there's a lot of openings in those type of trucks where you have both windows on each side. And since the rest of the squads are exiting Lava Siphon for that next circle, they were put in a very vulnerable position where High Point was behind them. Then you had a squad to their other side. I think it was Hardeki that was the last alive for Alliance that was there, but off to a corner where he didn't have the rest of E6 in his line of sight without putting himself in a vulnerable position. So IG playing it very slow. You saw that it was basically IG patience versus the High Point patience, but High Point had a way better position to be able to clean up that the lobby.
And if I can just say one thing, put some respect on Case Winnie's name as an IGL. I mean, he has been one of the top IGLs in Europe for quite some time. He does not get the credibility he deserves as a top 2 IGL in Europe, in my opinion. And no matter what team he's on, he finds a way to IGL them to success, always shaking up meta, and it really showed in that listen.
I think it's just the casters not talking about him enough, so I'm going to blame them at the end of the day. A lot easier for me. Let's head over to the standings here to see the results of the day. Wow. Look at this. Wow. We have top 2 points away. We got Vex Gaming just 10 points behind. 16 points behind is Echo Esports. They've already won a game. And if High Peak actually puts on a performance like they just did before, they could be in the driver's seat taking a win. It is all neck and neck here in EMEA as we kick it over to our final game. So take a little bit of a break, get some water, get whatever you need to stay locked in for the next 30 minutes because it is Game 6. We will decide a winner after this. Apex Legends Global Series Monster Energy, your official energy drink for the ALGS. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I told you it was just a quick break, so I hope you got your water, your coffee, whatever it is. I don't know, I'm on my 18th, whatever it is, but I don't need it because it's so exciting to see the action unfold. We've got 2 teams, 2 points away from first and second, so that's anybody's game. We've got a couple of teams after that, just 16 points separating our top 4, and of course, the team in 5th and 6th place, we've got a chance to see them put on a banger. Can they do it back-to-back? Let's bring in John and Vicky to find out because Game 6 is almost underway, John. All right, Vicky, I want to start with you. Predictions. Game 6. We didn't do top of the show predictions. I want to do end of the show predictions. What's going to happen in Game 6? Give me your thought.
I think E6 is going to come out on top, honestly, and beat the close point game that we're having between E6 and Pioneers. I gotta say, it's the consistency at the end game that I keep seeing E6 in. All
right, John.
I love that, Vicky. I love that. Imagine E6 comes in, changes up meta, plays Lifeline and Crypto and wins. I hope, first of all, I hope that happens, but it's not going to happen. Kansas City Pioneers have been too good. They've been too consistent. They've been too clutch. I mean, it's Nasky, Strafey, and Dell we're talking about, Vicky. Look, I know you didn't have a chance to cast back when they dominated every single ALGS broadcast, but they are so good as a team of 3. They are reunited. They're going to clutch up in Game 6 in my eyes. I have KCP taking it. Evan, who you got?
Honestly, I got to go with Vicky here. I like new metas. I like the shakeup, and I got to put some respect on Case Winnie's name since the casters won't do it yet again. John, you're again falling victim to that trap, man. All right, we'll find out who does it at the end. They're arguing, they're laughing, but they're commentating what they do best. Here, Game 6, John. Vicky, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rain Day. Game number 6 is here. Listen, we share our opinions. You know, we know a thing or two about Apex, but so do y'all. Let us know your thoughts in the chat. Who do you think is going to take it and why? Predictions from you. Who do you want to win? Who do you think is going to win? Game 6, it all comes down to this. The standings are so close. A 3-horse race, arguably, for first, and a 6-horse race, arguably, for second. It's going to be an insane finish here, Vicky.
It's going to be so close. And also, don't forget to tag us on your tweets. Hashtag ALGS. Let us know your thoughts on a lot of these teams, too, because it's so nice to see and us open up with such a close overall lobby in the overall leaderboards as we get to take a look at our final game of the day here in EMEA. The action has just started for day number 1, John. I cannot wait to see the rest of the action throughout the rest of the season.
Absolutely. That's a great point, by the way. Tweet us your thoughts. We don't have a chance to see Twitch chat because obviously there's a little bit of a stream delay. So tweet us your thoughts. We'll read some of your tweets. At Fallout with 2 T's is my Twitter, at Vicky Kitty, and using the hashtag ALGS. We want to hear your predictions, your thoughts going into game number 6. Shout out to MQZGG saying 6-hour drive to go out of town for work a whole year and watching ALGS. Big shout out to MQZ and everyone else on Twitter engaging and tweeting out their thoughts. Tweet some pictures. I saw a tweet coming through of a father of a newborn last year. Now that newborn is 1 year old. He's watching with his daughter again this year, which you'd love to see. We'd love to see your thoughts using the hashtag ALGS. But the northern zone here, Vicky, a little change up here after 2 southern zones.
I love it because I love going to the north side of World's Edge since we see so many southern circles at World's Edge, but give me the action, give me the shake-up when it comes to the last game. That's what I like to see. I also see a shake-up from Na'Vi, by the way. They're not landing and taking the 50-50 against Echo and Climatizer. Instead, they are landing in Tree. They're contesting HP instead. So that's nice to note because that does highlight the approach that some of these teams are taking, like Na'Vi, looking like they're trying to slow things down to play a lot more safe. They also have control over the beacon and Tree before deciding where they're going to go for that next circle.
Yeah, that's right. KCP changed their loot spots up as well. They're actually going to loot a little bit further north as well, as opposed to the south split, which we saw from them previously. E6, our champions from last game, have won 2 games now. I think the only team to win 2 games in this series. Or sorry, not champions, but they did really, really well last game. They've obviously looked great with this Crypto and Lifeline team comp dropping over in Skyhook. I think they dropped Trials as well, so they'll get themselves a great amount of loot in the grand scheme of things here in Skyhook as they get ready for this last and final game. They, of course, will have Lifeline packages to boot as well, and given the Trials loot that they'll have, all in the hands of Lifeline, that means you're guaranteed. Again, that's one thing that is a reason Lifeline's become more viable. People realized if you have 3 purple items in the inventory of Lifeline, you're guaranteed a gold item in that care package, I believe.
Yeah, you actually talked about it in one of our previous Apex Legends tournament, and I thought that was such very interesting information to note because not only that, you have your Lifeline land over in Trials, get all that loot, there you go. You're set up with the Lifeline composition for the rest of the game. You don't have to fight for that or wait for your care packages there too sometimes. As Turkish Stars, you get to tune into our Turkish team, make the rotation around this POI. It's nice to note with a northern circle that we're going to be seeing the likes of Countdown and Skyhook contested more early on in the game. We did see KCP Beyond the Wall as well make their rotation already in that direction as well. So there's going to be 3 to 4 squads already in the Skyhook area that you have to look out for.
All right, as things slow down here, I want to take a moment to say shout out to Hydreigon and happy birthday to Hydreigon. Just tweeted out saying it's their birthday today. She sent some love. Big shout out to Hydreigon again. Everyone that's tweeting, enjoying, and engaging in the conversation here. Let us know your thoughts heading into this game 6. Will the Kansas City Pioneers clutch up? Well, guess what? We have a KCP versus E6 early potential fight to ensue. Likely these teams won't take this fight here in early game, but with a Skyhook possible finish, you see a lot of teams early rotating, getting themselves some real estate, but might be foreshadowing for what's to come at the end of this game here. Number 1 versus number 2 right next to each other, Vicky. That is as interesting as it gets.
We're not writing the script, I promise. This is actually so interesting to see that E6 is sharing some of that real estate right neighboring next door to Pioneers. So depends on how they want to approach this. They have the information with that beacon being on the crypto, but that's something that we've also seen Nasky utilize for their own team composition. So basically, you're going to have congested skies. It doesn't look like it's very friendly to fly out today because of all these crypto drones out and about. You would think that Game of Drones is getting invited to this party here, but no. You see the EMP coming in. It's Horizon on the outskirts, E6 in the middle, but they can't fully send it because if they do, then that's going to be the green light for Pioneers to clean them up too.
Damage, a little poking and prodding early here. And here comes the first knock. It's going to be Sir Del on Horizons 0-0. So both E6 and KCP are obviously going tit for tat, point for point here. Every point, every kill matters. KCP gets that one. 1 kill point on the board for the Kansas City Pioneers over E6, but it could have been either teams.
Get to see E6 just waiting patiently as the lifeline care packages do drop right in front of E6. KCP just going to take their time. It's going to be Slayers that's going to just poke around to see what they could get. Oh, nice little purple Evo shield for the squad. You love to see it. Wondering what's on the other side of that care package, but then you put yourself at risk of being in the line of sight of KCP. Looking at this loot, though, yeah, you have limited energy ammo, but you also got that gold extended energy mag. That's always nice to have, so that way you can have your G7 out real quick before your Volt automatically reloads. E6, I like the slower approach that they're taking. You could expect KCP to take a very similar approach, too, just bunkering down inside of that tall building, which is going to give them a better positional advantage. But my eyes are also for the teams that are going to utilize that Skyward dive from the Valkyrie to get into that middle tall building that's in this area of Skyhook.
Meanwhile, we will hear a res come through, and it looks like BSC on the rotate. It's going to be strongest. That's the 3 Muppets. Guess what? Little did they know, there's 7 bajillion teams nearby. This could be very, very scary for them. They might take the lower part of this multi-floor lobby. It looks like they will try to do so. Will KCP let them live below them is the question. Will they coexist, or will KCP decide to ape? If KCP decides to push this, well, that means a third party could come through from E6, and that could be the end of their tournament. So they're going to play this really slow, really wise.
When you want to be able to put into so much damage, you see all those grenades getting eaten up by the wall tunnel. It's the 3 Muppets that are now down to 1. Only 1 Muppet left from this team, as the Pioneers are going to be able to come out on top, and they get eliminated from this lobby. KCP already starting things off, looking fantastic for your pick, John.
Massive. That's a full squad wipe. Kansas City Pioneers has 4 kill points to kick off game number 6. And look, I like this little rivalry we got going on, Vicky. You and Rainday got E6. I got KCP. Who's with me in the chat, by the way? If you are cheering for a first Pro League dub for the Kansas City Pioneers in their entry to Apex Legends, let us hear. Let us know if you guys want Nasky and the boys in Kansas City Pioneers to win. If you want other teams like Ascend to rise in the standings, or perhaps E6 to shake things up with the Lifeline meta, let us know if you want them to win in the chat. Meanwhile, Ascend find themselves using the triple take long range. I swear to God, I never can hit a shot long range with the triple take, so post kill is clearly better than me at life.
I love it. I love the triple take, honestly. It's a triple take G7 for me there, too, as well as that 30-30 that we're hitting, but you're traversing through open ground despite Kashera having that barrier to at least help close in that gap for you. Kashera now forced to pop the shield bat, so taking some time. He does manage to pop it off right here, too, as Post goes giving them some suppressed fire, but that's enough time to pop those shield bats for the squad to back away.
Ascend had a pretty quiet game last game. They got taken out, I think, like 11th or 12th place overall in the standings. Need a much better game number 6 if they want to break into the top 5. Keep in mind, every placement point counts, because every placement point means after 6 games in Pro League weeks, you will get points that will give you your Pro League standings. Top 9 will qualify for the playoffs automatically. So top 9 at the end of the Pro League split 1 is what we're going to be fighting for here. As Kashera's going to go down early. This is looking bleak right now for Ascend. Here comes Lufka, the rookie. The new player on Ascend is going to be all left with post kill in a 2v3 to try and survive and keep Ascend alive here.
Last thing you want is your Newcastle be the first one to go. Not just to go, but to get dirtied at the same time, too. You can see Navi, they did get that trade from Zhong actually getting taken out. Oh, Rugby also getting knocked here, too. This is a great opportunity for Ascend to come out on top, but the third party is now coming in from the left side. It's the Seer now coming in. That's going to be another squad. It's going to be Hockey's, actually, with the rest of Alliance showing up their face, and that is the green light for Ascend to say, I'm out of here, but Lufka cannot get away in time. It's Alliance cleaning up the remainder of that squad. And look at the choke point that they're holding here too.
Yeah, such a brilliant decision from Alliance and Hockey. This is what they do well, obviously, in these Game 6. When they have slow starts, they find a way to stay relevant. Right now, 15th place, not looking very relevant in the grand scheme of the standings, but a big game in Game 6 can break them into the top 10, can help them earn at least a few Pro League points so they don't have to do that miraculous split 2, 3-week absolute dominant run that they did last year, which was insane. For those that missed it, Alliance had a terrible start to split 2 Pro League, and then to qualify for playoffs in their hometown of Stockholm, Sweden, went on an absolute tear, winning 3 out of the 4 last weeks of Pro League to make it barely to the playoffs. Let's see if they can start a little bit stronger here today with a big Game 6.
Fallout, I don't know if you caught that, but Alliance is running the Pathfinder, by the way. So that is interesting to bring out to your final game. Okay, we got the mix-up. We got. I like to see this in our final game, but we also got to see them holding on to that sniper building that you could see them situated into the left side of the choke point that they originally cleaned up Ascend in. So they're just waiting to circle keep all of these squads that are leaving Countdown. I mean, look at this. You got Vexed out here. You got Heroes. I see another team over to the side. The tech's a little small for me to see, but there's 3 squads that are going to be in the line of sight of Alliance with little to no cover, which is going to be like a Thanksgiving feast for Alliance coming early.
Wow. I mean, when I started talking about Alliance right there, I was going to say they probably are running a different team comp. You know, they're not a team that's afraid to adjust their team comp if things are not working. But Pathfinder, that was the last thing I would have expected. I'd probably, with the last legend I would have thought we'd see in today's lineup. Maybe Mirage is last, but second to last. We have a path on display here. If we can jump aboard of Alliance, they are next to 3 or 4 other teams in an interesting fight. Meanwhile, Echo finds himself in an interesting fight as well on the north side of the tunnel with dead side of the zone. So a lot less risk than we see Alliance fighting in on the south side. Should be really interesting.
Let's not forget that Echo landing in Climatizer didn't get contested this game against Navi, who landed in Tree instead. So Echo had a good amount of loot in the northern side of the map to be able to rotate in this direction. As you can see, Seer Tech for Seer Tech, as they're just trying to get enough of that information. Ooh, trying to take a shot with the Sentinel. Misses that first initial shot, but doesn't see somebody on the other side of that truck just yet. We're just going to be able to wait to see what Echo Esports wants to do, but the second shot that he lands is going to be able to find its mark. 70 damage on that, but not going to be able to fully contest because they want to hold the north side of the circle without giving up the real estate that's to their south, which is Survey.
That's right. Echo will find themselves in a bit of a standoff here on the north side, and they're going to eventually have to push, meanwhile, towards the south side of the map. We do know we had Vexed, we had Alliance, and 2 or 3 other teams nearby, and they're going to have to make their rotate, and not all of them are going to survive. So it could be the end of this Game 6 potential run from Alliance. Can Vexed, who had a dominant game number 4, show up big in Game 6? Those are some of the questions I'm really looking out for. Meanwhile, Kansas City Pioneers and others in Skyhook are in a really, really good spot. They're already well positioned, so all eyes on these other teams. Looks like Horizon versus Vexed is ensuing 0-0, almost down to 0 HP, as he's going to find a way to survive.
Also means that Vex took a longer rotation away from Countdown north towards Skyhook instead of going into the line of sight of Alliance, as Heroes is also going to take the real estate inside of this building. They're playing on the outskirts, but sometimes this rotation could be risky, even though it's a safer option because it has more cover, because now you're going to be forced to transcend from the low to high ground of that uphill that leads outside of Skyhook towards where that beacon building usually is north of Fragment West.
Yeah, and so many of these teams predicted a Skyhook finish incorrectly. You saw every team rotate straight to Skyhook thinking they'd be ending there, but now those teams are going to have to rotate through inside tunnels. An interesting zone. We haven't seen a lot of this zone. Usually when it's a northwest or northern circle, you do see a Skyhook finish, but instead going towards Survey Camp and in tunnels. So it's been a tough rotate for Heroes, for Alliance, for Vexed, and so many others. I'd love to check in and see where the Kansas City Pioneers are, how they rotated, where E6 is and how they rotated, and do a little whip around a couple teams to see what their positioning is looking like going into this late game. Still 17 squads remaining.
I gotta give the hype over to Alliance also in their social media team, because they're, you know, they talk about the future being here. It's past here at Horizon for them, and they're looking to continuously dominate in this game. I mean, they need it. They're holding on to that second page of the overall leaderboards. They need to have a pop-off game to end the day, as Pioneers are gonna be holding the uphill portion of this side of Skyhook. This is what I was mentioning before, but look at the positioning of the fence line too. You have to make sure the base of that fence is gonna be behind those rocks so that way it's not easily destroyed. And they're also gonna be able to overlook a lot of the action going on over here without putting themselves in a vulnerable position to the squads that are holding the choke point to the left of them.
That flex, the fence is straight leaning. I don't know how it's standing up straight. As we see nearby on the decline here, KCP doing such a good job gatekeeping everyone else back towards Skyhook. Can they pick up the kill points, though, is the question. Alliance playing as well. Hero is going to be eliminated to the hands of Corpa. Meanwhile, the Kansas City Pioneers riding this edge with E6 in shambles nearby. That might be the end of Vicky and Rain Day's Game 6 prediction here, as Slayer is going to be fighting 0-0, and the Turkish Stars eliminated. Corpa eliminated. The Kansas City Pioneers in a difficult, deep rotate will have to play this to a listen-in with KCP to see how they fare.
We need to 3P. We should go kill them, though. I think we should go kill all of this.
Yes.
I'm
fucked. I'm with you, though. I'm behind you, though. I'm batting down.
The Valkyrie is right here.
They're ulted.
No EMP. Careful, Skynet, back.
I'm going different. I'm gonna pick some from here. Can I?
Careful behind you, Max. Careful behind you.
Is it something, no? They're picking me from behind.
Jammed on me.
I had a bed.
Vex. I died. Stay alive. This is Vex.
I died.
I can't stay alive. I'm fucking lucky.
Oh, we're just all alive, or Vex. That's not good.
Vex is gonna win.
And just like that, I get a tweet from a man Zephyr saying, don't sleep on Vexed, and Vexed eliminates KCP and tries to find a way to take a first place finish in this lobby. KCP is out, E6 is out, and Vexed has an opportunity of a lifetime, but Forge says, hey, it's time for our revenge from game number 4. Can they win the 3v3 against Vexed, who is already in shambles from KCP? Yes, they do. Vexed is eliminated as well.
The fact that Vatafi was still able to stay alive for as long as possible at the very end, and Tyler as well holding that door, was incredible because you saw that not coming into row. But Forge had the number advantage, they had the health advantage, but they drop. Okay, it's gonna drop right back down. Ricocheting off the rocks is gonna be the Seer ult, but that's still enough information for Forge to not only restabilize themselves, but to skyward dive right out of there. There was a squad that was on the high ground right above them, but it looks like they just rotated out of that line of sight into the left side, closer into that circle. Alliance also in some trouble. You can see them just holding on for cover for dear life behind that limited crate that they have in the line of sight of HP.
And Mandy's like, hey, no longer on the Scars competitive roster. I'm a content creator now. I'm going to play Pathfinder and just show you guys what's up, what content creation life is all about. No, I'm just kidding. Shout out to Mandy, one of the top streamers, best players that we have in EU, best personalities in EU. It's going to be a crazy finish here. Nice job right there from Forge. They were able to hit the Valk ult and rotate out. I'm not sure how they landed. Echo's going to get taken up by IG. Can IG have a back-to-back win to close this out? No, they're eliminated as well. So a crazy, crazy turn of events here in Game 6. The teams we thought would perform are all eliminated.
Echo still, though, in contention potentially here, though, as High Peak, one of the other highly performing teams, have been able to stay on top, but they lose out on Bavis. They're going to completely lose out on Bavis. You see the way that Hong Kong is going to be able to play around this natural cover of the rock, trying to avoid the black hole from getting sucked in. He only has the white barrel stave as well from the choke of the PK, so not too much to work with here, and also limited ammunition as he loses out on Fricks here too. Can he be able to dive in? He's playing this as a solo. He has another person that he has to worry about to his right. He's gonna be able to dive in. He knows the health pool of this player, but he puts himself in the line of sight of the other member of Phoenix Legacy as the third party is now rolling in.
Insane. He missed the PK shot that he needed. That could have taken out Sabs, but instead Sabs clutches up. Phoenix Legacy is going to be eliminated, though, to the hands of BFG, Bitfix Gaming, the newcomers to the ALGS. But Forge, who hit that rotation after taking out Vex, is alive and well. Digi, currently knocked. J Savage and Rowe are going to be the last two alive. The all-French squad going to have to hit reset, heal back up, and play as a team of 2 here.
What is this game that Forge is having right now? This is the game that I want to see them have because they've been able to clean up so many of the other squads on the outskirts of this circle. They need this here, as though they are going to be playing this as a duo just for right now. I'm not too sure if they're going to be able to get Digi in the process, but you can see the other squad that's 2-6, while BFG is taking a lot of their attention up in front.
And this is so interesting. LFO forever in 12th place with 23. Forge in 11th place with 23 going into our 6th game. Both alive right now. BFG was in 14th place. So it's all of our top 20 teams that are surviving and are finding a way to get into the top 10 and get some Pro League points. Much needed Pro League points in the grand scheme of things here. But look who it is at the top right of your screen. A knock's going to come through. It's Sheila. Little Max from Iraq on Sheila takes out J Savage and ends their Cinderella story in Game 6.
They gotta wait for World Dash to take out the Rampart, and I love to see it because we talked about it in the pre-show originally that Bitfix Gaming likes to fixate their attention with the Rampart composition. Seer Tactical coming out, putting a dent to their plan, slowing things down with the circle closing in right behind Bitfix Gaming's. They now need to rotate in the line of sight of the squad that's waiting for them on the other side.
BFG down to team of 2. Sheila is out. Lil Max is ready to go guns blazing, but he gets taken out by Horizon. LFO doing a good job getting a few more kill points. 2nd place for them. 3v3 fight. They're going to hit the reset with shield swaps, but guess who's nearby? It's Game of Drones, not letting them reset. The Arc Stars and the Nades are so well positioned, giving the slow and giving the advantage to Game of Drones, but for how long is LFO's able to hit a reset?
Let's see right now. I mean, LFO, they already have the health advantage. They're looking to clean things up as Tori gets taken out. Game of Drones now looking like the houses are falling down one by one. And now they're playing off of the natural cover. But look at this. I love this split attention here from Game of Drones. This repositioning behind the high ground of the rock has now allowed them to reset and almost use their down teammate as bait. Because look how low light is. Look at the side positioning from Horizon. Neither of these squad mates want to put themselves out in the open because Rondon would just immediately fry them.
Yeah, it's House Stark versus House Targaryen right now as Horizon's gonna be pushing up and gets the initial Q done. 3v2, goodbye, Jules. 3v1, and LFO, who had a complete disadvantage at the beginning of this fight, are able to clutch it up with a huge game number 6. That'll put them from 12th place, surely, to the top 7. A massive game from LFO as we welcome back Rain Day here in a moment to break down all the action. What a remarkable showing.
Wow, LFO from the bottom to the top, 12th place, John. 43 points as we started the game. If it finished that way, would have put them even above Echo Esports if they were unable to get a point. They would be in 4th place, but again, we have to tally what did Echo do. Also, did Element 6, did Pioneers do enough to kind of pad their lead, or did Vex Gaming, after wiping them and having a couple of team fight wins, do enough to take away what was, I believe, only about a 10-point lead at the very top for first? You could hear a little bit of dejection when they died, saying we might have given Vex too much. All of these questions about to be answered here, but let's just take it away. John, initial impressions. What a finish to this tournament. What a finish to game 6 too. A lot of teams at the bottom had some really strong finishes today.
Yeah, absolutely. Breaking down and speaking to that game 6 in particular, I think KCP did enough, Evan. They got 4 or 5 kill points, and they were the longest lasting team. Vex got taken out right after, so it might have been 1 placement point, if even that extra. But the 4 or 5 or 6 KP that KCP picked up, plus the 8-point lead that they had, I think was enough to leapfrog Element 6 in first and take home the dub. We'll find out when we get to the standings here in a moment, but here's the point where Pioneers got taken on at 3v3.
Yeah, Vicky, it was all down to the wire for them throughout this game. They had to perform, and it seems like they might have.
Yeah, it was a scary situation here for E6 to just not only be funneled inside this building, but we saw so many other third parties come in right after that, after Vex was able to clean up E6 there at the same time as LFO, who managed to come out on top. Like you mentioned before, a lot of our lower end squads making sure that they could put themselves back on board. Game of Drones, Bitfix Gaming, Forge, LFO, Phoenix Legacy as well, having a great game. But LFO at the very end, I believe they cleaned up a total of 8 kills before securing that dub for that final game. And as I always say, it's better late than never, okay?
Gotta agree with you on that one. LFO certainly does. 20 points. Not as many kills, but that's a solid performance on the day. Game of Drones, 2nd place as well. Very strong performance from Game of Drones heading into EMEA. This is a team to look out for no matter what matchup they're playing, whether it's Group A, B, or C versus each other. Bitfix Gaming too, strong finish as well as 4.
But E6 also, we have to give them some credit, okay? Because breaking in life and from Horizon Union has allowed them to also consistently be 3 points behind our first place squad that is KCP. So great performance in general for a lot of these teams. I mean, this overall leaderboard for our top 5 squads is so close.
Yep. I love what we're seeing here. This is how you know you've got a great season upon us. Every team battling down to the wire. Teams that were in the bottom 10, making their way up into the top 7, top 5, showing that at any point in time, it can turn. Never feel safe, never feel confident, because the second you do, we are coming for that spot, John.
Yeah, that's spot on, Rain Day. And look, as much as we need to celebrate the teams, a couple of the rookie teams, by the way, High Peak and LFO coming from Challenger Circuit that did well and performed well, and obviously KCP for winning, we'd be remiss to not speak to the underperformance from some of our Titans. Alliance and Gaiman Gladiators have sit on top of European Apex for 3 years as the top 2 teams. The last 8 months has not looked good for the FA Kitties and Gaiman Gladiators. We thought it was because PKMK didn't fill the void that Artico left, but with Artico here still not performing, and Alliance obviously still trying to mesh with Mandy as a third. And I think it answered our question, what would the impact of losing Vifes be? We'll certainly show today a top 12 disappointing showing from Alliance.
Vicky, your thoughts?
I'm gonna have to echo that of Fallout because I was expecting more from Alliance. Even Navi actually on the second page of the overall leaderboards. Our heavy hitters kind of getting shaken up. I mean, we got the likes of Game of Drones really popping off, LFO Forever obviously taking that final game, High Peak being very consistent, as well as Echo Esports. It's nice to see a lot of these squads come out from being in the overall bottoms of the leaderboards now, making their way to the top. I mean, aside from Echo Esports, they've consistently been top 5 throughout the day.
I think to me the most exciting thing, and I love that you mentioned kind of that storyline bubbling underneath the surface, that will only continue to get stronger, John, if Alliance and Gaiman Gladiators do not perform. Criticism will come, lineup changes possibly will come, but I think more importantly, what's very, very exciting is that we have seen almost the birth of a new EMEA meta where there is so much variety going on with these team compositions. Some people are taking the Newcastle Watson and the Valkyrie. Some, like our last winners, were taking the Seer, the Watson, and the Valkyrie. Watson just introducing herself in the mix where Horizon typically was on both maps. It's not just a Stormpoint thing or a World's Edge thing. And then we're also seeing, I think, the breadth of new decisions and new opportunities that these teams are holding on to. If you saw what happened with Furia, if you saw the way that they dominated North America and at the championships with a lineup nobody ever tried before, I think you would be remiss, as you perfectly mentioned, John, to not start trying new things early so you don't miss out on that opportunity to find the lineup that's going to shift the meta in your favor. And I think Element 6, they might have just done it with Lifeline. I'm excited to see more about it, though. I want just big takeaways of the day before we get to talking to one of these players. We're going to have a little interview for you in a moment, John. Big takeaways on the day. What did you see overarching themes?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a couple things we've already hit on. Obviously, Alliance and Gaiman underperforming, and of course, the likes of some rising stars, some new names, new faces. Again, welcome to the ALGS Pro League, to our Challenger Circuit teams from previous. Teams like the 3 Muppets, who showed off really, really strong in Game 1. Obviously, had a slower Games 2 through 5, but High Peak, Echo, LFO, who performed really, really well in those late games. They all placed top 10 over the likes of some of these traditional teams. So it's a new era of competitive Apex in Europe and in the ALGS. And there's some new teams that are showing that they're here to play, they're here to stay. Some new stars were certainly born today, Evan.
All right, game 6 ended in a pretty interesting way, Vicky, but I want to see overall, we started strong, we ended strong. Some teams, what was their journey about overall on the day for you, and kind of who caught your eye as a performer to mention?
I mean, aside from those last 2 games being single-digit kill games for our winning squads, we gotta highlight how heavy fragging these teams were throughout the day. First game, we had E6 win with 13 total kills. Game 2, we had Echo Esports win with 12 kills. Game 3, we had KCP winning with 19 kills, by the way. Insane. And to match that, Game 4, Vex came out of the woodworks and won that game with 19 kills, followed by IG winning with 7 kills and LFO winning with 8 kills. I just really like how highly aggressive our winning squads are, because it shows it's not about just that final circle positioning and bunkering down. It's about rotating, and in the middle of those rotations, cleaning up the easy KP that you could scoop up in these 3rd or 4th parties.
Speaking of Vex, I want to highlight the best of Vex. They came in map 4, where we got a chance to go to World's Edge and see who was going to start the engines and rev up to max horsepower. Well, certainly this moment, John and Vicky showed us what Vex could do in a pop-off potential. You got Matafe, an IGL of epic proportions. We got to give him his flowers too, although hasn't been able to get the success that he's wanted. Switch teams often, but unlucky, and Tyler FPS, along with him, seem to be really firing on all cylinders, John.
Yeah, completely agree. This is the game that made the difference. I mean, look at the bottom left. They're in 9th place at this point. If it wasn't for this pop-off game, 19 kills, 1st place finish, they would have been really probably irrelevant in the overall standing. So kudos to them, clutching up when it mattered the most. And this game really showed the greatness that is this Vex Gaming roster. What makes this team so unique? Their DNA, well, it's fast pace, in your face, aggressive play style, and it showed right there in game number 4. That was an awesome game.
All right, well, it is time to announce something that most of you are probably waiting in the chat for us to do. We do it every broadcast, and it's not stopping here. We've got our Monster MVP of the day being announced right now, and you're going to want to stick around for it. That's right. You could see the action. It wasn't really a surprise. They came out with Lifeline, and it wasn't just the epic team fighting they were able to put together. It also had to do with the chance we got to listen to the comms. We said we didn't put enough on his name, Vicky. John, he's all KCP. You pick K-Swinney with Element 6. He is your Monster MVP.
Hey, look, Brandon, you said it well. Maybe it's our casters that aren't putting the respect on K-Swinney's in. I've been hyping up this man for years. Don't put that disrespect on me. K-Swinney has been performing since, gosh, the beginning. Playing on Underrated way back when, was truly an underrated IGL. And ever since joining this E6 squad, has elevated them to new heights. Took them, and with this brand new team composition, by the way, I'm so excited to hear from none other than the man himself, K-Swinney, one of the best IGLs we have in Apex Legends, playing Lifeline and running a Lifeline team comp for his team. Randy, I'll let you start with the questions. But again, congrats, K-Swinney, on winning out Monster MVP today.
Thank you.
All right, K-Swinney, you know, we've been talking a lot about you today. It was hard not to talk about you with the introduction of your lineup. Once we saw it in action, I've heard you've been playing this quite a lot in scrims and in Pro League leading up to this moment of a debut. But walk us through the Lifeline crypto comp, just, you know, combination that you're putting together here that's been so successful today for you all.
Yeah, the comp is working really well for us. I mean, we just play aggressive. We lead on the land and we cannot rotate for free. We just have to fight the way in, and it's what we do in EU. And we just perform really well recently.
I love it. K-Swinney, I'd love to get some more insights as to, you know, how this comp came to be and why you think it works in today's meta. I'd love to get your take on that, but I'd also love to get your takes of two-part question on Lifen. He joins your roster, kind of a rookie in Apex, controller player. Talked about Lifen. He had 15 kills today, popped off in his debut under E6. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on both of those things, if that's okay.
Yeah, Lifen is like, he don't have that much comp experience before. He was playing for Horizon before, but like they don't perform really well. So now he just adapt on the playstyle I put him on, and is like improving really well recently, and he's like, I don't know, he's one of the best controller in the world, and like people need to hear this name. Like, sorry for my English, I'm trying my best, but people need to hear this name way more. Like, just don't forget, like, Slayers and Lifen are the best controller in EU right now. And why we're playing Crypto Lifeline right now, it's because of the Seer meta. Like our landing spot is working really well because we have a lot of loot and everyone is playing Seer, everyone is fighting Edge. We're coming with EMP, with Lifeline Rise and shit like that. Seer can't do anything against us, so we just like abusing of that.
Oh, I love that.
First off, your English is amazing. You're doing an amazing job, as well as you guys popping off. I mean, we were predicting E6 to pop off at the very end, even though Fall, you know, said KCP, but we got our eyes on you guys the entire day. I mean, you started off really strong, not only rocking the Lifeline at the very beginning, taking game number 1. I want to get your thoughts, because I know you've already touched up why you guys are running this composition and how it's working best for you guys. But what does that mean for your quick rotates? Because you are still running the Lifeline on Stormpoint, it seems, and that could be a little difficult if you don't have the trajectory when it comes to the rotates quickly.
Oh, we don't rotate quick. We just play Edge and fight the way in. Like, no matter what, we fight. Even if we like die top 8, we're gonna have a lot of KP dying top 8. So it's just the way we play right now.
Thank you so much, K-Swinney, for chatting. I have one question to leave with, because I always love to know the mentality of the competitor. And you, obviously, in the thick of things, 4-6 games, the first day, it's got a lot of energy behind it. What's one thing that you're taking away from today? You didn't get first place, but you had a great showing. So what's one thing that you're working on and taking away from this performance that you're going to bring into the next time we see you in Pro League?
I just know, it's what we were looking for. People are still fighting on Edge. People are just like taking fight. We have open space on when we come in zone. So yeah, today unfortunately it's throw 2 game. Sorry for my teammate. Like, they deserve the win today, but we're gonna get the next one. It's fine.
Thank you so much, K-Swinney of Element 6. You've brought a lot of light to our day, and I'm sure the fans watching at home, bringing out the Lifeline, getting the W, getting the Monster MVP. Congratulations and good luck for the rest of Pro League. All right, that was your Monster Energy MVP. What an exciting moment we have there. And again, the Monster MVP is one of those things that stands out to us as a special recognition throughout these broadcasts of your pro league. And you'll see it at LAN as well. We love it. We appreciate it. K20, congrats on getting the first one in the inaugural broadcast for year 3. As we bring back John and Vicky to close the show, I want your reactions, John, on a little moment of talking with K20.
Yeah, my first thought and reaction is I love getting his insights as to why running Lifeline. I had a feeling it was because Lifeline is the only character that does not get canceled by seer ults. That's a design principle that was tweeted by Jay Beebs officially. So that is the direct reason, the direct counter in his eyes. He can get reses off without getting canceled, which other teams obviously cannot. We saw it happen so many times where reses or respawns even got canceled by that seer ult in just last moments, whereas Lifeline's able to get that pick. You heard the tap comms come through. So I loved his confidence. I always have respected his confidence as an IGL and top player, and it seems like E6 and KCP and Vexed are maybe the new era of top teams in EU.
Vicky?
Yeah, I mean, it also doesn't cancel the healing there, too. So the drone coming out in clutch as well. So that's really nice to know when it comes to these different comps. Also, last form of thoughts, apparently there was an earthquake while Nasky was playing in the Pro League. So can we just, all right, his literal Ethernet cord hanging by a thread from that. So shout out to Nasky for being safe. You know, KCP still being able to keep their cool throughout an earthquake. So that's interesting to note. But that's also a nice story to tell for our next broadcast within the EMEA region, Rain.
Look at you, Vicky. Set me up just so smooth. It's tough to say goodbye, but, you know, I think you guys need a little bit of a break. You carried such a great weight in this broadcast. Excellent analysis and commentating. Fallout, Vicky, Kitty, thank you so much, and I'm excited to see you all very, very soon later on in the day. All right, that was it. We have started and begun and now finished our first of many, many broadcasts for Apex Legends Year 3. If it's anything like Year 2, it will be phenomenal and probably hard to put in words, but I will certainly do my best to do so alongside with the amazing talent that we've got on this broadcast and our upcoming broadcast. It's not over. Guess what? North America starts in about an hour and a half. Same channels where you're watching now. It's going to be the same channels that go live then. A great bio break, a long one, or a meal break if you need that too. Or if you want to go for a walk, get ready because North America will be here. For EMEA, thank you for putting on what an amazing show. My name is Rain Day. Thanks to the producers and all of the broadcast team behind the scenes and in front of it. We will see you very soon. Remember to never give up, never stop gaming. See you in North America.